evening, and welcome to the Reel McCoy. I'm your host, Mephisto, and always with me, my hetero life mate, Oh My Feelings. Good evening to you, sir.
Good evening, buddy.
What is the Reel McCoy? The Reel McCoy is your weekly movie podcast where we ask you to go and watch a movie. You watch it, come back to us, and we break it down, and we spin it all around. Today, we ask you to, this week, we ask you to watch Tommy Boy with Chris Farley and David Spade, and we'll break it down with our special guest, Jason Sandberg, not the brother of Andy. How you doing, sir?
I know there on the IndieGoGO campaign, there is an Andy Samberg tier where if you back Jupiter, I will autograph it as Andy Samberg. Just keep that joke going. So we can look at that later.
No problem. All right. Before we start all the ingenuities and stuff, if you like to interact with me, interact with the show, everything on Twitter at Mephisto. You can interact with me on Instagram. If you don't like Twitter at Mephisto79, you can email this show, the Monday show, the Thursday show at the Reel podcast. I fucked it up again. The Reel McCoy podcast at gmail.com. And of course, our good guest, Mr. Jason Sandberg. This is Tom's Twitter. This is Jason's Twitter.
Tom might show up. He might show up.
Yes. He's got a lot going on. So.
Yeah, Tom has a little bit of issues this week, but of course you can follow Tom on Midnight's Edge, but follow Jason on Twitter at Jason_Sandberg. And like Jason said, because it's a first for us to have an independent creator. So this is Jupiter. And I'll let Jason talk all about it. The links to both IndieGoGO and Kickstarter are in the description down below, and that's where they will stay. Go ahead, Jason.
Thank you. Yeah. So I am not Andy Samberg. My name is Jason Sandberg. I'm the writer, artist, illustrator of Jupiter. Jupiter is currently on IndieGoGo with 2 days left to run, and I think 13 days on Kickstarter. Jupiter is 40 pages full color for $10. It's full of surrealism. It's full of superheroics. It has a variant flip cover. So if you like variant covers, you only have to buy the book the one time, and you get two covers. It's full of kind of philosophical ponderings. It's full of action, adventure, and some psychedelics and some surrealism. Just kind of something for everybody. Most importantly, it's all independent. It's all me. I'm working on my own. I do everything, and there's been a fantastic reception to the book. This is my first campaign. And my first comic book campaign, and we've crossed 200 backers. I think we're at $7,800 right now. So everybody who backs is going to get the first stretch goal, which is a Captain Kleinbottle fan club membership card, which is just like a little memento card for one of the background characters in the book.
Yeah, show it up again. We'll make it bigger. There we go.
This is the Captain Kleinbottle fan club membership card. So Captain Kleinbottle is a Jack Kirby inspired hero who's in the pages of Jupiter. So this was the first stretch goal, and we got to $5,000, and everybody who backs is going to get this. On the back, it's got a schematic of his rocket ship, and it's got a very important message to you all out there. The message is that if you're not part of the problem, you are indeed the solution. So people that go to work, do a good job at work, take care of their family, love their family, and they kick back and they want to watch old movies. They want to play video games. They want to read comic books. They want to escape for a little bit. They are living life right. And the people that are trying to cramp down on that and trying to tell you what to think, they're actually the problem. So continue to be the solution. Tom has joined us.
Yeah, keep going, Jason.
Here. So there's a new stretch goal. The new stretch goal is if the campaign combined on IndieGoGo plus Kickstarter get to $8,000, all the backers will get an official Legion of Memers license to meme. Yes, this is what you need in your wallet, your purse, your fanny pack to clear any meme checkpoints, disengage with the meme police. And if, God forbid, Russia and China start a meme war, you're going to want to have this license to meme in your back pocket. On the backside of the license to meme is a reminder: the world needs comics division because life is too short for bad comic books. So when time allows, please go look at the IndieGoGo campaign, Kickstarter campaign for Jupiter. Take a look. I think there's going to be something there that you didn't even know you were missing. It is full of the best the best quality, the best creativity that I could muster, having loved comic books for over 40 years. So please take a look, and thank you for having me here today.
No problem. Thank you, Jason. Awesome. Tom, how you doing? Thank you, Tom. That was excellent. Super. Awesome. When he gets back to the PC,
what I've been having, why I was late is because my PC is freezing up and being a jerk. I apologize. So hopefully it catches up with me.
That's all right.
You are catching. I was gonna say you're catching a bad break this week. How's the GoFundMe for Sadie?
Luckily, that is doing very well, and we already got her surgery set up, so everything is ready to go there. And I can't thank everybody enough.
Cool. Yeah, man. Right, guys, please go follow. Wait, now it's correct. Go follow Tom on Twitter and go subscribe to Midnight's Edge After Dark, and Midnight's Edge Radio, and Midnight's Edge Espanol, and the Midnight's Edge I completely forgot. Probably Midnight's Edge 2 Radio or whatever. All right, cool. So this week, watch.
I was going to say, Tom, the way that you're expanding out, it reminds me of the myriad of showtimes they had from like the mid-aughts to like the mid-teens, or it's like Showtime Edge After Dark. It's like, you're getting as bad as ESPN, man. You got to roll that back a little bit.
Actually, that was the satellite age, right? Because what they did, and it wasn't just Showtime, HBO, all of them did it. Yep. It's like, we've got all these new bands we can play with. So we've got like 12 different Stars networks now.
Yep.
I bet you him and Andre are working on Midnight's Edge 8, the Ocho. Yeah.
The Ocho. Well, if you ask Culture, we've got Midnight Snacks in the works. At least that's what he wants me to do.
Nice.
Midnight Snacks. Then you got the Midnight Toolbox for those enthusiasts.
You could have a car channel, the Midnight Oil.
Yeah,
exactly.
Midnight Oil. I like that.
Exactly.
I think the closest we've come to so far that we are working on is like an anime and a gaming channel that are probably the most likely next candidates. But yes, thank you for having me. This is always fun to get to hang out with you guys, and we got Andy Sandler here, so
that's
right, from the failing SNL.
Let me tell you something. People come up to me and say, we love you in the movies, Andy Samberg, and I say, listen, I put everything I had into that movie, Palm Springs. I had to mine the deepest part of my soul to pull off the complexities of that character in Palm Springs. And I'm kind of burned out. I just want to hang out and watch movies for a little while. So thanks for having me here.
Exactly. I loved you in I Love You, Man.
Yeah.
We covered a few weeks ago. Right. Cool. So
I was going to say, I thought his best work was That's My Boy, but
I was going to say, That's My Boy.
Right. That's interesting. We're talking about a boy, Tommy Boy. How many times you watched it this week? Feelings?
3 times.
I watched it twice. It's fucking great. I forgot how great. We'll get to it when we get to it. The writing, some of the jokes that when I originally watched the movie, I was like, it flew by. This one caught me. Like, there's a throwaway line there at the start where I was like, oh, that's a clever piece of writing. You probably know which one I'm talking about. We'll touch upon that later. It was a fun experience, and we seem to forget how great Chris Farley was. Whew, mama. The man had issues, and you can tell.
Yeah.
Like, you can tell in this movie. And I went through the blooper reel of this movie. There's a blooper reel that they put on YouTube for all places, and it is crazy. It's so fucking funny. All right, cool. We start the show where we start always. Turn to All My Feelings and get the lowdown on behind the screens.
Production take 2.
Take it away, sir.
All right, well, to start off, sadly, there was another film, another Lorne Michaels production that was in the works at the same time as this one was, that got a little bit more money and a little bit more fame. Billy Madison. Yeah. Oddly enough, the first title for the film was going to be Billy the Third, a Midwestern. But Lorne Michaels turned that down because Billy Madison was in the production at the same time. They didn't want to confuse the audience with two films with Billy, two
Was it
comedies.
Wasn't it supposed to be like sort of in the same universe kind of thing? Or they didn't even talk about it? Okay.
No,
it was just that Lorne Michaels had this thing to where he controlled all of the SNL guy. Well, ask Andy over here. He would know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
worse
Lorne
than
would
the
control
IRS.
their careers. Yeah, so he was very much over top of like what they couldn't do, when they could film, what they could film. So Tommy Boy actually was something he put together directly for. Initially, it was for Rob Lowe and
gonna get to
Chris
that.
Farley. Sorry, go ahead.
No. But well, Rob Lowe was uncredited in the film because they actually wanted to keep his appearance in the film as a surprise. Because again, Tom, originally it was supposed to be the project for Rob Lowe and Chris Farley, and it was supposed to focus on their relationship as him being the new stepbrother.
Yeah, like basically, so it was like a prototype for Step Brothers in a weird way.
And yeah, in a very, very weird way. And the reason why Rob Lowe took it was because Lorne Michaels essentially reinvigorated his career by casting him in Wayne's World.
Yeah, and we talked about it. We talked about it, how Rob Lowe kind of owes, But Jason?
And in the aftermath of the VHS tape incident with Rob Lowe, one of his first public appearances was on SNL, where they kind of diffused the situation via skit when he was on SNL. So I think to some extent, even before Wayne's World, Lorne Michaels was trying to throw him a lifeline.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. I mean, never mind. I forgot about that tape.
Yeah. There's the one guy in the background. Yeah,
I was young, but I remember that tape.
Well, that was what he was most famous for the longest time until Wayne's World, right? Like,
yeah.
But yeah, it was meant to be a vehicle for those guys, and then I can't remember if because one of the main writers on Tommy Boy who took the project over after the initial writers was one of the writers on SNL. And
it was Fred Wolf. Yeah,
Fred Wolf, and he would just he noticed, because Chris and David shared an office, and those two were like a little team.
Yep.
And he noticed that, and he's like, we can use it. Like, he started just writing down their conversations.
Yeah.
So like a couple of the bits in the movie are just like straight up conversations that Dave and Chris had.
Oh yeah,
basically.
yeah.
It's very
like
natural.
Fat guy in a little coat comes right from something that Chris
exactly.
That was
a skit that they used to do actually in their offices. Yeah, as a bit. Mm-hmm.
You can just imagine Dave trying to write a script and I'm sure he's just floating around their office, cracking jokes and trying to distract him, and him just getting kind of frustrated with him. You can just see it.
Yeah, take it off, dickhead. I'm serious. Well, what's funny about that scene, not to jump ahead because this might also be in your things on my feelings, but like the fat guy in a little coat scene, the original version, he just says it. He doesn't sing it. He's like, fat guy in a little coat, fat guy in a little coat. But then when the editor was watching the dailies, David Spade's side of it, Chris was off screen, and he's like, all of a sudden, like the 8th take, he starts singing, fat guy in a little coat. And the editor lost it. He's like, and then it just happened to be that they were going to reshoot the scene because Chris had this white shirt on, and they're like, it just looks wrong. So we're going to reshoot the hotel scene. He's like, oh, if you do it, have Chris sing the line this time. So they reshot it with him singing it, and it's like one of the quintessential lines of the film. It's one of those great moments. But yeah,
I tried to recreate it with my kids' thing, but my wife shouted at me that I'm stupid and I should leave it. It was supposed to be the outro today, but no.
What's even funny is because in I don't know if it was from the retake or the original, but you brought up the outtakes earlier. There's that one bit in the outtakes where he can't rip it. He's like, it's too tight.
It wasn't tight enough because otherwise
the shoulder says or whatever.
Yep.
Right. Next.
But to that point, you mentioned the rewrites. The original script was by Bonnie and Terry Turner. Fred Wolf and another one of his co-writers from SNL came in and did massive punch-ups.
Yeah,
script.
Because when they started shooting the movie, they only had like 20 pages.
Yeah,
to start with.
They were really backing on Spade and Farley's friendship and how they could play
They
off each
said
other in improv so well.
the
They're just
last
like,
page they had when they started filming was basically when they got on the road. All they knew is they were sending them on the road to start selling these brake pads, and that was it.
yeah, we're going to talk about the deer scene too, because oh boy, what a cluster that was.
Jason, please answer this question. What kind of a role do you think Farley would have had if he would have stayed alive?
I think that at some point there would have been diminishing returns in some of the physical comedy, and he would have gravitated into like a kind of a beloved like John Candy, kind of like a John Candy figure, and it would have been
that's
less
exactly what I see him in. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Well, we do know
I
for
agree.
a fact that he was initially the first one who was cast to do the voice of Shrek.
Yep.
Interesting.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Shrek
He was
changed
going-
a lot because of that,
Yeah.
because Mike Myers came in and then totally changed. But yeah,
Mhm.
there's some leaked animation tests and stuff out there with Chris's voice, so you can kind of get an idea of what they were going to do. But yeah, it was a bit different.
Yeah, then also he was assigned to the doomed project, which is the Confederacy of Dunces, which is never going to get made. It's just never going to get made.
I think that thing came up like 4 or 5 times on the show throughout the years. But yeah, it's
like who is ever attached to that? That's the doomed script, because who
So
gets
is
attached to
Nanook
it
of the
ends up-
North is another
Yep,
one too.
Yeah. Mhm.
exactly right. Let's keep going.
So okay.
Sorry.
Again,
No, it's fine.
previous names,
Tom,
again,
trust me, it's fine.
as we mentioned, were Billy the Third, a Midwestern. Then it went under the name Fat Chance
Okay.
and just XL. Wow, he just not nailed that. Was like, wow, we get it. He's fat. Okay. And
It's a good thing. It's a good thing Kevin Smith wasn't around. He would have been called Lunchbox.
probably. But what's interesting is what's funny is the reason why it ended up being called Tommy Boy was because Brian Dennehy on set just kept referring to the character as Tommy Boy, and they just went,
Yeah.
Nice.
"Hey, we'll go with it."
It's an Irish thing.
Yeah.
It's an Irish
Yeah.
thing.
And the casting is so perfect. The
yeah.
casting is perfect all the way across the
It's
board.
fantastic.
Yeah, Brian Dennehy is fucking great actor.
Well, it helps that most of these parts were written for these actors specifically. That's the thing you got to keep in mind. Like, they knew they wanted Brian Dennehy to play his dad. They knew Bo Derek was going to be the stepmom. They, Rob Lowe was obviously, because that was originally what it was going to be, is this mixed family, almost a lot like Step Brothers.
Yeah.
But then they came up with this idea with David Spade and him going on a road trip comedy. And you got to remember, in the 90s, in this period, we have like 3 or 4 of the best road trip comedies of all time. Between Dumb and Dumber, Tommy Boy, there's a couple other ones, Road Trip, for example.
Yeah,
Just
Road
in that
Trip came
little
a
era.
little bit later. Yeah.
Yeah,
Road
just in
Trip
that
was 2000s.
Yes.
Was it? I thought it was like 99, 98, but it could be. You're probably
Uh,
right.
I can
99 or 2000s, one of the two.
I can check.
But,
it.
might be 2000, 2001,
Keep going.
But
Felix.
with other things
check.
was the waitress at the bar where he gets the chicken wings and has his he gets his shtick.
Yeah.
She was actually supposed to be played by Roseanne Barr.
I can see that.
Interesting. Yes.
It's funny, in that scene, they're supposed to be in Toma, Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
That is nowhere near. None of them. That is not. They didn't film this anywhere near Wisconsin.
Nope. It's in
Well,
Toronto.
Canada. It's on Toronto mostly. Yeah.
And that was one of the things that Peter Segal had so many issues while filming, he actually tried to quit during production. But the studio threatened to sue him if he didn't, because there were so many issues with the fact that David Spade and Chris Farley had to keep flying back and forth from Toronto to New York.
To New York. Yeah. And
They would fly back 3 times a week. Yeah.
wasn't it?
That's crazy. Wow.
Didn't I think there was something that I read about Peter, the director, and Chris, that he wasn't sure Chris could do the entire set and do the SNL going back and forth, where Chris kind of committed to no drinking, no Coke, no nothing.
Yep.
Okay, you got that? Keep-
Yep.
Just
And Chris wasn't a writer. I don't think on SNL he was a writer. So
Not really.
it seems
No.
like he would. I mean, it seemed like it would have been doable as long as he stayed healthy. David Spade, I don't know how much he was writing during Tommy Boy, but I know he was a writer on SNL, so that would have been a challenge to be filming, flying, and trying to write the next.
Because wasn't he doing Weekend Update at the same time too, Jason? If I remember right.
Maybe.
Yeah,
I
so
mean,
I think he had to write those bits.
Yeah, Dennis Miller was the anchor, and he would come on and do Ace of Spades or whatever. But I think he probably wrote. He probably helped write Update.
I would think so. Well, at least his bits, anyways. What I was getting at, yeah. Because like the only thing I think Chris would do is like when he would do like, like Matt Foley and those kind of characters, he would just do them basically, and then they would just write down what he was doing. But
They would just he would no sorry, Tom. He would just unleash it.
Pretty
Essentially,
much,
yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
and then the funny thing about
the character,
this did start a trend for Chris, and it might have been part of what killed him. Sadly, is that whenever he would make a movie, he would go completely dry.
Yes.
And then as soon as the movie would wrap, he would overdo it. And in fact, I know a lot of guys because growing up where I grew up, he would literally drop in at frat parties and shit in Madison. And it was like, and I was told, like, if somebody was doing a line of Coke, he had to do 3. If somebody was having a glass of Jack Daniels, he'd drink the whole bottle. Right? He was the way Chris would come in. Yeah.
He was pulling a John Belushi through and throughout his life, and it was written in the skies. If you're going to pull a John Belushi, you're going to die John Belushi.
Well, the difference was John was never sober. That was the big difference. Like,
and the problem is when you heavily drink and then immediately stop, it can literally kill you. And it did.
Well, and Chris also ate like a horse. That was the other thing too. He would come in and, like I said, same thing there. If somebody had a steak, he would have 3. You know, if somebody had a glass of wine, he'd drink the whole fucking bottle.
Yep.
And I know a lot of people used to hang out with him. That's the sad part. And he was a lovable guy. Like he would come in and he was always he was like a whirlwind. They said when he'd come in the room, you'd know when he was there because you just felt his presence.
Even when he was in the bad patches, right? When he was not taking care of himself and he was spinning out, you never heard anything about like maliciousness. You never heard anything about him going off on people and things like that. And in his work, and when you would see him, he came across as a genuine good soul, right? He had issues, he had addiction issues.
Well, he had huge insecurity issues. That was the big thing.
Yeah. There's that whole bit where essentially to work with his lines with Julie Warner, who plays Michelle, like he was so shy around her. She thought that he was just acting. No, that was just him inherently when he was sober. He would drink to excess and do the cocaine and everything to give himself that, that the extra push, that confidence.
That boost.
Yeah. But with mentioned just how Peter Segal was so worried about that it was going to be a bomb. He actually grew a beard to try to hide his face.
Hey, did he also direct The Island of Dr. Moreau? Is this the same director as the?
I don't know.
But,
I can check.
But he did turn down.
No,
he was so sure it was
so.
it was going to be a bomb. He turned down the offer to do Black Sheep immediately because he didn't want.
They wanted to do Black Sheep.
Yeah. And Farley was furious with him and they reconciled before he passed, but he was furious with him for several years because
I kind of wish he had, because Black Sheep turned out to be a black sheep. It's not very good.
It didn't work.
It's okay, but it's like a ripoff more than anything.
It was
what's sad is it did kind of bomb. That's the sad part about the movie is it did technically flop, but it became such a hit on video later. That was the thing.
Well, it wasn't a total flop. I mean, it did return. It was 32.7.
But you got to do movie math there. That's the thing. People forget
$20 million budget. So, but marketing was only $5 million. So, like $25 million.
Yeah, but
32.
the theaters still kept half of that. You see, people forget that. You got to remember, even though, it's the way it works. And I saw that movie, believe it or not, the same day I saw Bad Boys in the theater.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Double feature. I saw Tommy Boy in a double feature too, but it wasn't Bad Boys. It was something else I don't remember. Saw it with a really good friend of mine.
Yep. Yeah. So other side notes. Rob Lowe almost had to back out due to some emergency, like other side personal issues that, yeah, some of the VHS stuff kind of popped back up again and kind of kept haunting him in the mid 90s.
Yeah.
So they
He
had
eventually just had to
emergency-
own it and make fun of it, and then
Yeah.
people moved on.
Yeah, they had emergency casting sessions where Matthew McConaughey was going to be the next pick
For the stepbrother?
For
Yeah.
the Rob Lowe?
Yeah,
I can see that.
Interesting.
Which is funny because, as Bryant just brought up, originally Chris Farley was meant to be the cable guy.
yes,
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So he would have
Yes.
been with Matthew and the cable guy, yeah.
Okay.
But with everything about Chris Farley, again, he was sober during the entire production, but
Yeah.
again, he could take nothing without a bit of excess. So he was renowned on set for drinking up to 27 cups of coffee a day.
He chain smoked too, don't forget that, yeah.
Yes. And one thing too, when Peter didn't have too much faith in him, Chris said, "No, I will do all my own stunts as well," and he did, including the kill the table scene.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Chris always insisted on that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
In fact, there's one stunt scene that is not in the movie. It's it's deleted because the director felt that Chris was being a bit too John Belushi. And it was one of the first shots they ever did. And Chris, it's during the opening scene where he's like, "I'm late." You know, he's running through thing. He goes through the parking lot at the college. This part gets cut out. And he's literally leaping over all of the cars and setting off all the alarms. And he even comes back and starts slapping the rest of the cars to get the alarms off. And Peter, right? That's the director's name. He took him aside. He goes, "All right, I want you to do that again, but do it as Chris, not John Belushi." He's like, "What?
Yeah.
What do you mean?" He's like, No. You're doing John. Just be Chris." And so, like, from that moment on, he had to keep reminding him, "Don't be John Belushi. Just do your thing. Be Chris." You know?
Yep.
And also, there was some rushing in some of the production schedule, obviously, with the actors going back and forth, but also with the music and the scoring of it. They borrowed, if you notice, Smef, during the scene when they're on the airplane. That is a direct copy with correct rights given to the creator from the score from Groundhog Day.
No.
Yeah.
You know how this actually happens, and this is not as uncommon as you would think, just people don't usually catch it right away, is because we were actually going to do a video about this. This has led to some lawsuits, but for the most part, people are pretty smart about it. But it's because you do temp music when you're editing a film, and sometimes a director will just get so attached to that temp music that nothing the composer does matches it, or the composer matches it so well they get sued later.
Yep.
Yeah. Didn't we talk about it when it was "I Love You, Man"? When
think
it
so.
was,
One of
I
those.
think we talked about this. You told me about this about Rush, that the director really loved Rush, and they made the whole thing, and only then they asked the band
to bring.
something?
Yeah. Well, that was also with last week with Don't Stop Me Now.
Yeah,
During
exactly.
for Shaun of the Dead, how they basically the scene in the bar. Tom
Yeah,
and Jason,
when they
they're doing the choreographed beating of the zombie.
Yeah.
They had already had that already set in mind, and they went ahead and they shot it before getting permission to use the song.
And
So
then
they had
took it
to
to
write
Brian
letters
May.
to Brian May.
Yeah.
You know what that
"Please let us
reminds
use
me
the
of?
song, please."
Is kind of like with Stuck in the Middle with You on Reservoir Dogs, because they had a couple other options that they wanted him to use instead that were cheaper, and Quentin's like, "Nope, it's got to be that song."
Good choice.
Yep, exactly.
That's
you
gonna
got
be.
more?
We'll talk about the rest during the film, but
No problem.
There's one that the thing with Superstar, how they ended up singing the Carpenters' Superstar, and they're crying
Yes.
in there. That was Spade's idea to have them sing it.
Told me you love me, baby.
Yep.
Lorne Michaels hated the concept.
Of course.
He was like,
God.
no, we have to use a different song. We have to use a different song. But they kept going after song after song after song after song. They couldn't find one that was cheaper that would fit the theme. So they're like, fine,
It
Should've
worked
went with
perfectly too
Journey.
because it's
Yeah.
well, Journey could have possibly worked, but Carpenters are one of those groups where it's like even though everybody pretends they hate them, somebody secretly like you like at least one of their songs.
Yeah.
At least one. And yeah,
You turn
that's
it.
kinda that joke.
You turn it up in the car. You don't buy it. So, like some people won't go buy it, but when it comes on the radio, crank it up,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But it's perfectly
Exactly.
done too. It's like you can change it. Yeah, no, you change
You
it. Yeah,
can change it if you
I
want
can-
to, but
Yeah, I'll stick with it.
I'm
Yeah, whatever.
fine.
It's like they're trying to get one over on each other. And then that I remember seeing that in the theater. That was probably the biggest laugh in the whole movie. Like of all the laughs in the entire
and-
film, I think that the theater erupted that during because you could even barely hear them singing at that point. It was just everybody was laughing so hard
Yeah.
at that.
The thing about this later on, I know people don't like the Big Bang Theory, but they actually had the same kind of setting where where they took a couple of characters and they made them listen to I don't even remember, not Journey, but one of those groups where you would not think those particular characters would listen to those things, and it's straight from Tommy Boy. They literally took the same scene. It's like, oh, it's this.
Wow, wait, you mean the
Journey
guys-
would almost be too cool if you think about
Is
it.
it
Yeah.
like
really.
Ario
them,
Speedwagon or something like that?
Maybe
Yeah.
like Ario or the Carpenters. The
Air
Carpenters
Supply.
are just perfect.
Air
Air Supply would have been a good one. There you go.
Yeah.
Or I just Wings, something from Wings, because everybody hates Wings, right?
Well,
Right,
no, I
cool.
was just gonna say meth though, but yeah, the guys that wait, are you trying to say that the writers from the Big Bang Theory are hacks?
Right? No shit.
Heaven
But no, it's funny
forbid.
about that
No.
scene. And look,
I
what's
would
funny
never
about
say that.
there's some symmetry there with Lorne Michaels wanting that scene out because famously Mike Myers missed the because I believe his dad passed sadly, so he had to leave and didn't get to see the test screenings for Wayne's World. So he didn't get to see the audience reactions to Wayne's World. So him and the director Penelope got into it over some of the edits, and Mike was just insistent on cutting out the most famous scene in Wayne's World, being the headbanging Bohemian Rhapsody scene.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
We
he
talked
was,
about that during the review.
Yep.
yeah, I imagine
Yeah.
you did. And
We did.
because of that, she left and didn't come back for the second film, but it stayed in the movie. And of course, it's the most iconic scene in the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd almost argue it's the
Exactly.
same kind of thing here, almost in a way, because
Yeah.
like I said, through all the stuff in the film, and this movie was almost nonstop laughs. That one got the biggest reaction in the theater. So I think that the instinct would be to leave those kind of things alone. When you know you got gold there, don't mess
Yeah.
with it.
Right, cool. Before we start the whole shebang, we're gonna have to run it though. We're gonna start our first game. This is new for Jason and a very old one for Tom. It's called Missing Marquee.
I'll be good.
Tom, I knew what you were gonna say. It's like I'm gonna hang back and let Jason.
I'll let him. Yeah.
All right, Jason,
Yes.
and the audience, Missing Marquee is where we take 10 posters of movies, have their text written off. We display them in. Jason, and if Tom's going to jump in, he'll jump in. We'll have to guess which movie this is. Some of them are easy, some of them not so easy. All right, let's go. We'll have this and go, Jason.
Fantasia.
Fantasia is
Nice.
correct.
It's got to be Godzilla. I don't know which one though.
Yeah, Godzilla versus
The Hydra.
and the name, Tom, you know?
King Ghidorah.
King Ghidorah.
Yeah.
Ooh, which one is this one? This is
The Spy Who Loved Me.
No, not The Spy Who Loved Me.
oh no. It's,
Oh, that's the George Lazenby.
Yes,
Yeah.
In
that's
Her
correct.
Majesty's Secret Service.
Correct.
Wow.
oh god, easy
A
one.
switchblade.
Come on.
Sling Blade. Correct.
Oh, that's gonna be oh god, oh dear lord. I've got kids too. This is ridiculous. Tom Little or
Stuart Little.
Stuart Little.
Stuart Little is correct.
Yep. This is The Birds.
The Birds, correct.
The Remnant.
The Revenant, correct.
Oh, The World According
Ooh.
to Garp.
The World According to Garp.
I'm impressed,
Octopussy.
man.
Is this,
Which-
is it no? Is this
This is
no? It's,
This was supposed to be the last Sean Connery one, but they actually made another one, which is
So this would
fucking
be
terrible.
You Only Live Twice?
Nope.
No, the other one. See, my Bond stuff is where I'm not so good. Yeah.
I know.
my
All my
Roger
feelings
Moore is
is the
spotty.
worst.
See,
License to
Let's
Kill.
see.
Like,
Does
License to
the
Kill.
no,
chat
License to Kill is
know?
80s. Shoot.
View to a Kill.
Not A View to a Kill. No, that's
No,
Roger
later
Moore.
on, too. Trying to remember the first few Sean Connery
Oh wait,
ones.
Thunderball.
Thunderball.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
Yes.
correct.
Good job, Jason. Yeah.
All right, Zootopia.
Zootopia, and that is our last one. Good job,
Jason,
Jason.
man.
Do
I'm
I get a
impressed.
Do I get a high passing score?
Oh,
like
high,
I get to
high
pass
pass.
someday?
Yeah.
A very high
You did a
pass.
great job. You did
It's
an
like,
amazing.
you're
job.
actually like Jason. You're up there with the greats.
You're up there with the greats.
I am. I'm technically still number one, Tom. I'm sorry, but
Well, we'll have to. You know what we should do? We should have like a face-off one of these days.
It's tough because it's on the internet, so lag
it's like-
is an issue. But
I hear you,
Brian
but like just him and I, just a face-off. You know, like,
could
We could do
could
that.
do
The hard
could
one.
do.
We could do
but
that.
Jason, well done, sir.
That's,
And
that's
yeah,
with
no,
one
that's-
Heineken in me. So
Exactly. Never Say Never Again is the one that is not currently in the canon of Bond.
yes and no, because it never used to be, but now MGM I think owns the rights, so I think it was included in one of the box sets. if I'm not
trying to
mistaken.
sneak it back
Really?
in.
Because for a
yeah.
very long time, it was a lot of argument with I think it's the Broccoli family who are the
Yeah,
main producers.
originally, but like MGM now has the rights to it,
Yeah.
which is messed up. It's weird how it worked out because I think Warner initially released it, if I'm not mistaken, but like they somehow ended up with the rights back to it. Yeah.
All right, because we have to go through. We're not going to go through every single scene, but the first scene is basically Tommy running through the college and making it to the history. I think it's the history one. History
Yes.
101.
yep.
I was gonna say, well, there's a
Goodbye.
callback to when he's a little kid and he drops his history book, remember, because that plays into that whole thing.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until this rewatch that I figured out that the kid on the bike, when in the very, very beginning, I just realized this recent watch that the kid
Oh.
was
Richard.
Was
Yep.
Richard. I
He
didn't
tells
ca-
him, "Shut up, Richard."
Richard.
Shut up, Richard.
Thus setting up their whole kind of relationship from the get-go. And
Yeah.
of course, he manages to pass with a D plus, which is great.
I
he
love
goes-
the Herbie Hancock joke is just a toss away, and then there's a payoff for it later. I'm like,
That's
oh,
that's what I fucking want. I love that where he says Herbie Hancock on the test, and then he comes back around when you least expect it.
Yeah,
when you
it's just-
least expect it, it's so good. The
It's Herbie Hancock.
yeah.
What's funny too is on the printout just of the grades, but when he's printing them out, if you notice, Helen Keller and Michael Jackson are on the roster on there. Helen Keller
pay
failed.
attention.
Helen Keller failed, and I think Michael Jackson
Michael
got,
Jackson got a
an
D plus. A D plus. And what's great too is I know you know this, Tom, because you know all the behind the scenes stuff too. But that's not only did Farley go to Marquette, but he was on the rugby team.
Oh, Chris Farley,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah, but they didn't film this in Marquette University. Actually, though, it was actually at Canada.
Oh
Someplace
yeah,
in Canada.
I know, but it's
Yeah.
just funny how that was played off. I'm like, oh, that's a nice little touch.
Well, and the reason I know that is because, like, funnily enough, the DVD special edition that came out like 10 years ago now, yeah, it would have been almost exactly 10. Oh no, 8 years ago, whatever it was, because the 25th anniversary will be coming up here, the 20th anniversary, whatever it is, 30th anniversary. Jesus, where are we here? What
Yeah, I
decade
know.
is this?
It's not. I don't know.
Anyway,
don't
on
think
that
about it.
case,
You'll have an existential crisis.
funny thing
I
is
think
you
it's
have
the
the
30th
you
in about
it
2
has one of
years.
those it has one of those gatefold cases, and you open it up and it has a map of their entire trip.
Oh, nice.
So like a lot of us
that's
were like, okay, so
cool.
we want to go see all these places in Wisconsin. None of the places that are on there are the places they went because they filmed it all in Canada, and they just took fake signs that
Yep.
said like Oshkosh and Kenosha and all that shit and just put them wherever. I think the only time they film in Chicago at all, even? I'm trying to
did.
remember. Okay, I was gonna say I think that's the only
One
time they
side
film in the
scene
US. Yeah.
Chicago. And that was
I was gonna ask you all my feelings because you must know is the same building that they filmed on the outside is the same building from Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
It is not.
Might be.
Damn.
Oh, okay.
It looks the same. It
They
looks so close.
They are near in the same district.
That's in a big city like Chicago. I've never been, but I guess the district is pretty big, right?
They're not really.
It's downtown, no?
Yeah.
The thing
Yeah.
is, Mephisto, it's like it depends on when the building was built, because you can have like 5 buildings in a town that look exactly the same because of just around the period they were built.
Yeah, same here, by the way.
It's
They
just the
usually
style.
like, oh, we have like a
Right.
city block. Let's give it to so-and-so architectural, whatever, Inc., and let them
Yep.
design several buildings so they all look the same.
Yeah.
So, and again, of course, once he graduates, comes back home.
I got
meets
to
with- Go ahead.
Oh, I got to point out a good sight gag in here is when they're walking down that hall and you see the family photos and you get to the last one.
Yes. They all kind of look like just an amalgamation of Brian Dennehy and Chris Farley and the aunt at the end. And then when the lovely aunt took over, it's like,
That's what I shot.
it just looks like Chris Farley in a wig.
Yeah.
I guess their whole like bear hug thing they did was something that him and Dennehy came up with too, from what I remember.
Yes,
hearing.
that's something that I read. It was supposed the direction was do something that is lovable and shows that not only they're two fat guys like really into each other, they gonna have something that in the core they did the same. So the rugby thing came into mind where that's
it's like a rugby
where,
hug, yeah.
That's how they bonded. So they bear hugged each other, and you know it looks like father and son.
Yeah, I was just gonna say too. I think David Spade's my favorite line of his in this entire film is when they first meet back up together, where he goes, "Wow, it only took you about 7 years." Like, and he goes,
Yeah.
"Well,
a lot of people go to college for
that
7
long."
years. Yeah, they're called doctors. Yeah, David has some of the best lines in this. Use an association.
Yeah.
Let's say the average person uses 10% of their brain. How much do you use? 1.5%. The rest is clogged up with malted hops and bong resin.
And by the way, you can tell the I don't remember the name of it. Is it not American Ninja? See, I'm bad with
Beverly
names.
Hills Ninja.
Beverly
Beverly
Hills.
Hills Ninja.
Yeah.
Fucking American Ninja. It was like there's a when he presses the thing and it comes back and the first one misses and you're sure because we just saw him get stuck in the other place where he's like, holy shnikes, right?
Yeah.
And there the first one misses, so he goes all ninja on them, and I was like, I remember this from a different movie altogether.
Yeah. What's interesting, Meph, is at the end there where he stops and goes, "I'm sorry, I'm retarded."
Yes.
That was actually his line apologizing to Peter Segal, because that whole thing, he was so nervous, because he was fully improv in that scene by himself. They're just like, just do whatever you want to do, Chris. And he was so just apprehensive while shooting that scene. He thought he fucked it up so bad.
Yeah.
Well, you can tell there's a lot of improv just by watching the extended scenes more than anything. Because, like, you know, we see the bit in the movie, like great examples, like you brought up the restaurant scene. You know, let me tell you why I suck as a salesman. That whole thing, there's a whole bit there that's like chopped out. And because he just goes into the whole thing. And it's,
the idiots.
circus clown.
That's my little.
Oh my God. Naughty little pet. Naughty. And I take my naughty little pet and I go, ha! I killed it. I killed my sale. And that's what
To me,
there's a whole bunch of stuff in between all that they cut out. Yeah.
to me, that was quintessential Chris Farley. That's the same dude that was guarding the guard outside in Wayne's World that he explains where Mr. Big goes. This is exactly the same guy who later on in Wayne's World 2 is in the fucking Russian tea room going crazy. It's like, this is his
Chris Farley.
humor.
It's like, wow, that security guard really had a lot of useful information.
Wonder if it'll come in handy later. I also love when he's training to be a roadie in the second film. It's like, why are you here? You're no good. You'll never make it. I got no place else to go.
Again, you mentioned Richard, David Spade's character, and the subtle digs, which are totally not subtle. It's like, your dad, you failed up, or your dad. Welcome to your office that your dad built for you in the past 10 years that I will never get into. Blah blah blah. It's like he didn't say that, but he's sort of those digs where he is really mean to your future boss, but he is so dumb he'll never understand. So he keeps saying it because he said it to him all his life.
Yeah,
left to right, up to down. Group of words make a sentence.
Exactly. And of course,
sorry, I have seen this movie so many times.
No, it's all right.
It's quite all right. I kind of skipped the fact. Oh, I wanted to go back a little bit.
Luke, I am your father.
Oh yes. By the way, I did that a lot.
Everybody's done that at one point in time in their life.
That was from Star Wars. I know.
But you do it. But you do it when you're 10. You don't do it when you're 23. You know.
Oh, I've done it when I was 23. Way past, by the way, because I'm a dumbass. So this, I want to mention this.
10.
That's the line,
which is so fucking perfect because Brian Dennehy and Bo Derek were in a film
called 10.
That's the
exactly.
joke, yeah.
And I was like, this is why I said one of the jokes, or one of the things that it flew by my head when I watched this for even the 10th time, but rewatching it this week, I was like, oh shit, that was a clever piece of writing in in a movie that you don't expect clever piece of writing, which references a different movie. And if you don't get it, it's still valid as a throwaway line, because she's a fucking 10, right? But if you're into movies, if you're into this thing, the role reversal, the fact that they're mentioning another movie in a movie that has nothing to do with this movie, it's just perfect.
Right. And also, as a side note too, when Bo Derek showed up on set for the first day of shooting, everyone was completely taken aback. Her partner at the time was such a jealous asshole. He made her cut all of her hair off.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I didn't mention a discrepancy. When she was in the pool, coming out of the pool, her hair was long-ish. But when she met Tommy Boy, her hair was shorter. Mm-hmm. And later on, it's even shorter. And I was like, that's kind of weird. They don't mention it, or they don't pay any attention to it. But it literally is, when she's in the pool, it is right here, comes out, talks to Tommy and his dad. It's here. And then it literally is like a crop top. Or I was like, that's weird. So we get introduced to her. We get introduced to the stepbrother. I'm moving it a little bit forward. And they're Tommy and the name of the brother, Rob Lowe's character, Paul. Paul is like, what do you have to do here for fun? Oh, there's lots of things. And he takes him off to do fucking cow tipping.
It's a thing,
it's the
kids.
middle of nowhere. And I was like, yeah.
I like Paul as an adversary, because Paul is equally as much of a fuck up as Tommy Boy in terms of things don't go right and things kind of going wrong and so forth. So he's good because he's got a different game plan than Tommy Boy, but at the same time, the things he tries to do, don't quite work out right. And so I think that adds to it kind of adds to the symmetry to have your adversary be kind of a screw up too.
He's actually a lot more sleazier in the original cut, or is that what you were about to say?
No, yeah. I was gonna say he's put up as a criminal mastermind, but he's more like a failed henchman of sorts.
Yeah, he's just real kind of a rube.
Well,
Yeah.
there's this
But,
deleted scene that really shows how sleazy he kind of is, but I can see why they cut it out because of the reason that Jason just said, because it's the one time where he wouldn't have fucked up something, because he's just sitting outside the house and he's just sitting there spraying his hair with hairspray while he's lifting a weight with the other hand. He just keeps spraying and spraying and spraying, and Bo Derek says something to him and he's like, yeah, I'll get to it or whatever, and there's this yipping dog behind him, so he takes the lighter and he burns the dog and then goes right back to spraying his hair. So like I said, at that
Damn.
moment, it's like I see what Jason said. Like if you left that scene in the movie, it goes against everything else, because it's the one time something doesn't get the one up on him, and it makes him look like he's this badass kind of thing in a weird way. And so like I totally see why that got left out. And there's a couple other bits too that were kind of along those lines that kind of show him as a bit more of a sleazy guy. Yeah.
There's something real close when he like leaves the bus. When you see him the first time, he drinks that carton of milk, and when
And he
that-
hits the kid's face. Yeah.
Yeah, hits the kid's face, and there's a moment there where he throws the carton to the carriage, like the berry
inside the
carriage,
baby
and it's like,
carriage, yeah.
"Oh, you're a bad dude."
Yeah.
And
What's interesting too is Tom, you touched on this, how the script was so bare bones that the cow tipping scene in this whole bit, that was actually Rob Lowe's idea.
what, the maniac thing?
I'm kind of surprised that it would
No,
the cow
go into-
tipping wouldn't be Chris's, but yeah,
Yeah,
go
the
ahead.
cow tipping was his idea, and then doing the hose off here.
Yeah.
Because cow
And,
tipping is a total Wisconsin thing, folks.
Oh,
I'll
yeah.
tell you that right now.
And what's funny too is Chris actually had to wear a wetsuit during when they were filming it, because it was 20 degrees Fahrenheit.
Sure.
So
Yeah,
to
you
keep
can
it from
tell. You
freezing.
can tell it's
Yeah.
cold when they're filming.
Well, and you
In
can
the
tell he
real
probably got
world,
sick
in the
that night,
metric
too.
system, that's very cold.
You can hear it in his
Yes.
voice, like by the latter takes where he's like, "Why?" You can hear he's starting to get sick, probably, because you
Yeah.
can hear the rasp. 'Cause,
Yep.
yeah, it's probably cold as hell and getting wet, and you can even hear him say in the first, "Oh, that water's cold." That's probably not an.
Yeah, that's probably real.
Yeah.
And you had said that potentially, was it Kevin McConaughey was going to be
Matthew
cast as
McConaughey,
Paul?
yeah.
Matthew McConaughey.
Mhm.
I don't think he. I
Or
could.
Broderick, I thought you said actually.
Was
No,
it Matthew
you
Broderick?
said Matthew McConaughey.
No, it was McConaughey.
Was supposed to
It was
be
gonna be McConaughey.
Rob Lowe's character. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and I think Rob Lowe is. I mean, Tom mentioned that they certainly tuned the script up for the actors, but there's something about Rob Lowe's delivery, and I think that the other actor was just too nice, right? Just it's more of a it's too hard of a stretch. And I think that Rob Lowe, I think the casting is perfect, because he's handsome, and he's fit, but at the same time, below the surface, there's just something
He's
not
very
right.
indignant. Like
Yeah, exactly,
His
yeah.
face kind of served to be indignation personified, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That-
like,
that's-
why
that's
am
what
I
I
here
think.
why am I here in this blue collar town? Why I'd be living the
Exactly.
big life, and yeah, it's good. It's good casting.
And just to touch on that point, because I know Brian had asked about that in chat. He was uncredited because it was supposed to be kind of a surprise for the audience for him to be included. Because before, again, it was supposed to be a Rob Lowe and Chris Farley picture to begin with, but they changed it to be David Spade in.
Yeah, the whole point is that they were trying to get a sort of a in theater reaction for when Rob Lowe steps out of the bus and does that scene.
Yeah.
Whether they got it or not, I don't know, because Rob Lowe was, even though Wayne's World happened a few years before, he wasn't doing that great. Not yet, actually. I think
Wayne's World was kind of his comeback movie. Yeah.
Was
yes,
the start
but
of it. and
I
then-
think the point in which Rob Lowe's career kind of really took off was actually West Wing, because he did a few
Oh, as
movies
far as,
along
like,
the 90s, but once
Oh,
he
yeah.
entered the West Wing, that's where he's like
Well,
soared
Like
upwards in
in-
terms of getting more TV roles for
go
sure.
ahead, Jason. Sorry.
Like in A Bronx Tale.
Mm.
If they had put Joe Pesci on the poster, it would have diminished the reveal at the end where he shows up and takes over the neighborhood, right? There's that
Mhm.
punch, that punch. So I can see why they would do the same thing for Rob Lowe. And I granted I've seen this movie so many times but I can't recall if it was a surprise when I saw it the first time. But but it definitely it has more impact when he does step off the bus. If you don't even know he's going to be in the movie, I think that's
not for me, because I remember him being in all the trailers, because the Maniac scene was in like all of the trailers, and because he says, you know, he goes, "I'm totally douched with mud" or whatever. He's like, "Doesn't smell like mud, Chuckles." So
And
like,
of course-
I don't know if there was something to that at first, but like, yeah,
and-
like.
And this, I mean, I'm like, I love music, but when people sing in movies, I usually cringe a little bit. But I love this scene.
Hey, Brian Dennehy had some chops too.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And what's great too
and
is about this, like so many of the people that were extras in here were all members or friends of Farley's.
Well, Chris's
or
brother's
of-
sitting right next to him when he's like,
yeah,
"Get on up here." He's like, I don't want to. Okay, you know,
and
like,
even the flower girl that's dancing with Brian Dennehy, that's Peter Segal, the director's daughter. So it's not like everybody was just brought in.
Interesting. Sort of like we said last week with Shaun of the Dead, that all the zombies are like literally people who watched the show
Spaced,
Spaced. And of course you get the signature Chris Farley cartwheels, which are horrendous but funny because it's him doing it. And of course, poor Brian Dennehy dies. Dad dies, and I misremembered. There are three characters from the Break Company. Not all three of them.
like the shareholder guys.
There's the CFO, the second hand guy, and there's the other money guy and the banker. I misremembered. I thought the second guy, the money guy who always complains, was in on the thing. I totally misremembered that. He's not into it. He's totally on Tommy's side, but he always plays that role in other movies.
Being typecast in your mind.
I kind of misremembered it. I was like, oh, he's genuinely.
And I'm glad they did that, because you already have enough of that here. Like, you're already like, really, like, you could still take Rob Lowe out of this movie and Bo Derek out of this movie, and it's still a decent film.
Oh,
you don't need their stuff there. It's just there to add a ticking time clock to it. Is all it's really there for, because otherwise it's just, can Tommy pull this off? I mean, even them, you don't really need the ticking time clock, because the whole thing is about Tommy putting up all of his stuff for collateral on this loan that he has to get it paid back by a certain date, where they have to sell X amount of parts.
Because
so,
you know, if it goes under, that's when the horrors come in.
That was great.
$20 for the rent. Instead, maybe they'll spend it on the whore.
It's like, I slept with the hooker one time during the war, and I have never heard the end of it.
The great bit of directing cinematography is when Brian Dennehy collapses, and they zoom towards Bo Derek as a reaction shot, and when it pans out, they're at the funeral surrounding the grave. Just beautiful editing, and not something you would expect in a comedy per se, but just a wonderful thing I wanted to point out.
Exactly, because like I said, when I came to this, I was like, yeah, this is a fun little movie. Watch it. I was like, there are subtle little things in this movie done right to make sure this is a quality film. It's not just a comedy. It's not just let's just come in and make fun of Chris Farley. Oh, and we have David Spade to like balance out the crazy and the straight guy and the crazy guy. It's way more. It's way better. Well, more put together as a whole film.
And I think that goes along the lines of Peter Segal knowing what he had, and Chris and Dave, and Chris's heart just in general, because that seeps through the movie, because he has such a big heart in general that you can't help but love the guy. Like, he is just, and this is a great scene too here, because it has a callback at the end. And it's a brilliant scene at the end that is almost a tear-jerking scene, right? What's funny is
with recalling his dad, yeah,
and I can't remember the other producer's name who actually bought the script for Lauren, but after she saw the film, the director goes, "What's wrong?" Because she was crying, and she's like, "This is not the movie I bought." He's like, he's like, "Oh fuck, I screwed up the movie," like it's hard to think. And she's like, "This is even better." She goes, "I never knew you." She's like, "This is more than I thought it could be kind of a thing. Cause like, at that point it was just like a slapstick brother comedy. She'd not expect it to be this touching story about this guy who, is trying to live up to his father's legacy and all that kind of shit. So this is a very poignant, and
I want to bring out
the comedies. Yeah.
I wanted to bring up this scene in particular because there is sort of a mirror scene for this in Coneheads. If you remember Coneheads, Chris Farley is the guy
came
dating
out the year before,
the girl, right? There's a scene where they're sitting in the diner and he's very timid and he's eating his food properly, even though they're eating like subs, right? And she comes in. And in this, he's trying to yell at the kids, but he's trying to tone down the curse words because he's out with a lady. And she comes up with, "You fucking bastards! I know when you live and who your mom says. I'm gonna fuck you up." And it's the same thing with the girl in Coneheads, where she's like, she takes the whole thing and she scuffs it down. And Chris Farley's character is like, "Whoa, I haven't seen people eat that sub or for years, like since my mom did it." It's like, oh, fuck yeah. It's sort of the same kind of scene on different takes.
Yeah. I would say what's interesting too about this scene and also the final scene with the boat, both of them, Chris Farley couldn't get himself to cry on cue. So he would do multiple takes of every single scene and he'd poke himself in the eye.
That's so.
But I was like, why don't you just use some Visine, buddy? Come on.
And Julie Warner, perfect casting. You can't not have a crush on her, right? Just perfect casting.
Sweet girl next door kind of thing, yeah.
I loved her since Doc Hollywood.
Yeah,
I was going to say Doc Hollywood's.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing that would have made her more cliche in this movie is if she was a single mother. At least they didn't go that route. Because, I mean, this movie's so chock full of shit already. Like, it almost seems like that's the only thing.
Today.
They would. Exactly.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
No, but her character's brilliant and she's such a great, because you buy her being with Tommy, right? It's not like, same thing with Brian Dennehy and Bo Derek. That's what's weird. But with Bo Derek and her image, Brian Dennehy is such a man's man that even though he's a husky guy, you could be like, yeah, I can still see Bo Derek going out with him. You know, and it's the same thing here with Julie Warner, right? It's not one of those unbelievable kind of things like Jonah Hill going out with Brie Larson in 21 Jump Street kind of things.
Yep.
Not saying a word.
I would say, which in so many ways, who is getting the worst end of the deal in that relationship?
I know. And now is a different story. Then was a different story.
Hey, what if he's a feet dude? Jonah Hill, I mean.
What's weird is he's the one who's all healthy looking now, and she's the one that looks like a ragged mess. So go figure.
Well, they both lost 100 pounds. Anyway, so I just sorry, Bree, I love you. No, I don't know. Tommy's like, I'm gonna sell these brakes, but I need someone with me. So Richard is being coerced not only.
No.
What?
No, that's what he says. He's like, you can do it.
Yeah.
Like, well, let's see. You were my dad's assistant, so that would make your schedule completely.
It's like your schedule's completely clear now. So
yeah. And Richard is being coerced to do this, and he's like, he doesn't want to do it, not because he's not capable or not skilled enough. He's just don't want to be in the same car as Tommy. That's it.
And when, jumping back, the scene where Rich picks him up at the bus stop or the airport or whatever, in the beginning of the movie, that scene does two things. It tells you about his personality, and then it establishes that the car is super cherry, and so then obviously you're gonna take a road trip in that car, and it's not gonna go well.
It's stupid because Tommy's rich. Don't you think that it doesn't work for the otherwise? But like,
why is he not taking the
Tommy's
probably
car.
Multiple cars?
Yeah.
But no, I love that when they meet too. That's another thing because they do a great job in the first 10-15 minutes of establishing everything. Like Jason just said, you get so much out of it in the relationship between him and his dad just before his dad dies. You understand the relationship between him and David Spade. You understand how the operation works at the company really easy. I mean, they don't overcomplicate anything. That I mean, even with the Rob Lowe subplot there, Derek subplot, like I said, it's fine. It doesn't take away from the movie, but it's almost like if they would have added one more thing, this thing would have just toppled over because it's
Yep.
so chock full of stuff already. And then like their greeting scene is so great because he's late. Right, he's like, "Oh, I thought my dad was going to be here to pick me up." Yeah, he was here this morning when you were supposed to be here.
Yeah, I called KL5.
You called. What was the number you called? It was like
call him on a
4,
walkie-talkie.
5, 9.
And the thing is, this
No,
this next thing, I laughed hysterically. I don't know why. It's not the funniest bit, but this made me laugh hysterically.
And this is
When
one if you can find the extended scene of this, check it out because it goes on for like an extra minute. It's hilarious.
I can see this going on forever, but I laughed so hard, and I was like, why is this thing for the 17th million time making me laugh again? It's just Chris, like,
because this is the
Chris
shit he used to
Farley's-
do on when he would come on the Weekend Update. He would do this basically.
Yes, I know.
This is
It's
his
like-
shtick.
It's taking the weirdest thing and just making
You're driving along
destruction.
and you're driving along and there's something in the road. You got our brakes. And, that was close. Now let's see what happens if you're using the other guy's brake pads. Like how David Spade's trying to stop him and stuff.
Melting off.
Now, guys, you guys
Corner
probably
comes out
know
and he-
this.
Oh my god.
You probably know this. Who is the actor who's playing the guy who's the guy who the table who's trashing? His
Not offhand do I
voice.
know.
His
I'm not
voice
sure.
was so familiar, and I couldn't find him. I found the name. It did not. It's like the only movie he did was this and a couple of other roles. His voice is so familiar. It's like he sounds like the trailer guy, but not really.
I don't know, because like all the other guys that own companies are like fairly
Yeah, they are
decent
fairly
veteran
known.
actors.
This guy is completely off. I don't know. But yeah, let's.
We do have the first bit with the car at the gas station.
Yes. Yes.
Where again?
What'd you do?
What'd you do?
Oh, the map bit is funny too. It's like I can't seem to find Davenport on this map. Can you help me out here? You need a new
You
map.
need another map.
Yeah.
It's like, wow,
It's
you look like
Davenport is in Iowa. You
it's
need
22
another
miles
map.
away. Well, if you
Because
say
this
it's
is the first time
22
where-
miles away and you're a smart individual, then I would think it would be on this map. Yes, Davenport is 22 miles away in Iowa. You need a new
What
map.
I find
Now-
so interesting too is this is the first time where it's Spade's character is actually really called out for him being such a sarcastic little shit.
Yeah.
Because he pretty
Yeah,
much
next
runs
time-
into somebody who's like himself, if you notice that. Because the guy's got no freaking time for him. You know?
Yeah.
It's just like David would have probably treated somebody. You know? So
Yeah.
yeah, he gets a taste of his own medicine there. And he's like, well, how much do I owe you for gas? You didn't pump any. What?
Yep. Of course,
And
later
then
on,
when
the
it comes
next-
back, when it comes back later too, how he left the oil can.
yes, he left the oil can in.
I used the right kind. It was 10W30.
Yeah. Later on, we see the whole carnival thing it was just for the workers, right? It was that.
Yeah, it was for everybody and their families.
It was everybody, the
Yeah.
families, everything. And you see Julie Warner's character kind of seeing that something is suspicious. And this is the first time where you see Paul as a complete fuck up because he's peeing on the fucking transformer and then he gets lit up.
Zap.
He did not learn a lesson from Ren and Stimpy.
Yeah. Man, funny you should mention that.
Well, it's weird because it almost feel like maybe there's a reason why I feel such an attachment to this movie is because of some of this Midwestern sentimentalities too. I mean, the original name of the movie was Billy the Midwestern.
Yeah.
Because I mean, a lot of these things remind me of things that like the cow tipping, the piss. Like this scene here is basically the bigger version of when we used to try to get our buddies to piss on an electric fence.
Yeah, that's As
So
I said with the Ren and Stimpy bit, don't whiz on the electric.
Don't
fence.
whiz on the
Yeah, exactly. So like a lot of and that's how they kind of wrote this movie too, is they all got together and just kind of started throwing ideas out there of things that they had happened to them on the road when they were ever on road trips and stuff like that.
Wait.
So like, yeah,
I mean,
the deer thing.
Okay.
the deer
Now,
thing.
The deer thing, first
Okay.
and foremost, it took them 5 weeks in total to train the deer to stand on the car at the end.
Really?
Yes.
Because I
And
know they
prior
used,
to that, they used a goat at the beginning and they painted its front hoof brown because they couldn't have one of the deer on set because it was during mating season at the beginning and had ended when they were getting the trained deer to finally stand on the car.
I had a
just
quote
wild.
from the director saying, "You would think if you had a deer and a deer wrangler, that the deer wrangler would wrangle the deer to do whatever we needed to do. However, apparently deers don't do anything you ask them to do on command. Therefore, we had an amalgamation of a puppet, because we had to use a puppet at the end, which is most of the shots, and just the 2 shots of the actual deer doing what we needed it to do at the time."
Yep.
Eventually, it was a colossal waste of time for the entire scene. That's what the director said. I was like, fuck. I didn't know it was 5 weeks, you say?
Yeah, in total. Because what they had to do is how they had to train the deer was around it. They had to put its droppings around it so it became and put its scent near where the car they were going to put the deer on that was already destroyed.
Yeah.
So the deer would be accustomed enough where they could put it on there and hold still and not just run off.
Yeah. And the fact that it's alive was fun. Was a lot of fun.
Well,
So
usually in road trip movies. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jason.
No,
I live in Minnesota, and let me tell you, deer are forest rats,
Yes,
and
they
they are disease ridden, crazy. They're like overgrown squirrels. But more importantly,
He's not wrong.
I lost a Saturn SL2 to a deer. It was fully paid off, and
Damn.
so those of you
I lost my
that out there
Mustang
that
to one, man.
ouch, what year Mustang?
It was an 82, so it was a shitty Mustang. But anyway, you can,
Yes.
I know what you're
So-
going through, man.
Deer.
It's the principle of the matter.
The movie takes place in Wisconsin, was filmed in Canada, but it hits home with me because I hate deer. I don't hunt, but those of you out there that take those things out, God bless you.
Bless you.
Well, we're neighbors, Jason, so we have the same problems here.
Yeah.
In fact, in my town, I've got video of this shit. When you said that they're like squirrels, overgrown squirrels, you're not wrong. These fuckers walk through town like they own the place, and they'll eat everything in sight. Just walk up in your like. One of them taunted my dog one day. I'm like, "You're lucky that she can't get you." I had a family of them
we
living in
don't
the
have a
backyard
problem
over
like
here.
that. We don't have
Oh,
a
God,
problem
they're
like
horrible.
that.
They're like rats.
However, when you go down south, when it starts to be an actual desert, you have road signs like do not hit the deer, but instead of deer, it's a camel. And I'm not joking, there are camels who do not give a fuck, and they are standing on the equivalent of an interstate. They're just standing there, and also you might see them sitting down on the asphalt during nighttime where there's no road lights anywhere, right? It's in the middle of the fucking desert, and they're sitting down because it's warm. It's super cold at night.
You know what
so
that's got to be
they're
like? That's got to be
sitting there.
worse than a deer. And Jason might know what I'm talking about. That's got to be like hitting a cow around here. Because every
It's
once in a
literally
great
like hitting a
while-
cow.
Yeah.
So Mephisto, the camel situation, it sounds dangerous. However, deer, they will literally jump at your car. That's how stupid deer are. So
Yes, they are. stupid.
they are
trust
dumb.
Jason, I don't live in your country, but I consume a lot, and I do mean a lot of U.S. culture. I know.
He's the
I know.
What I
know
was
of
gonna
the-
say-
I know of the deer situation in the Midwest. I also know of the deer situation in New Jersey. Yes.
I was just gonna say, there's this thing in these movies, whether it's a road movie or like the John Candy camping movies or such, where you always have some interaction with some animal, and in every movie it looks fake as hell and dumb as hell. This
But-
one, they pulled it the frig off. Oh my God. And not only that, I could see some idiots from out of state, and Jason knows what I'm talking about. They would go, oh my God, we killed the poor little deer. What are we going to do? Kick the son of a bitch off the road and leave. That's what you do. You don't pick it up and put it in the back seat of your car, because guess what? Chances are it's going to come back too, because it's probably not completely dead.
Or it's got ticks all over it too.
Disease
That's the other
and
thing.
Yeah.
else. Yes.
Yeah.
They're
Oh,
best.
wow.
Like, he's not
Guess
wrong.
who's got Lyme disease now? You do.
Oh.
You do, because you had to put that fucking deer in your back seat. Yeah.
Yeah. But with the deer wig, like I just love Farley, how the way that he can just get so expressive in the turn in just in his own sentence, where he just revs it up. He's like, that was awesome.
He kind of invented that. Like, that was one of his, definitely because that was kind of like you were just saying earlier too, about like the thing with her in the boat, and
Yes.
the same thing with the Conehead scene. That's his little thing,
It's his little thing. It's his little thing. And
Speaking of
course,
little
when-
things,
Exactly. Exactly.
That guy, Luca.
Fat guy and a little. It's so iconic, and to think it was almost not there. It's fucking.
not so much that it wasn't there, not in the form it was.
Yeah, whoever put it in, is just knows the magic of things happening.
yeah.
In so many ways too. I was just waiting for David Spwade's character to finally just say the line, for Richard to finally just use the Big Lebowski line prior to the Big Lebowski, like, they did it. They finally killed my car. But it never came up. Like, he keeps attacking on cardboard doors.
Well, the closest you get to it is at the end, when he just kind of is like, you can't park that here, and he's like,
Just,
here, it's yours,
"Here's the
keep it.
keys."
Yes.
Because at that point,
Yeah.
he's like, fuck it. Yeah, this is great.
Yeah. They literally almost died just because of.
And this is another
that
true story
can.
too, is that one of the writers was driving down the road, and they didn't latch their hood right, and it flipped up on them.
Yep, exactly. And when they stop, he's literally just not pulling any punches. It's like, oh, you're so dumb, you're so stupid. How come I'm in this fucking car with you? Blah 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 blah. It's like, and Tommy's just taking it, and it's like, it's okay, man. We'll do it. Well, don't worry about it. It's fine.
And they finally do get to that point where he breaks.
Yeah, he
And
just
the-
he
and the
breaks.
fight,
And
oh,
it's like,
little man, too scared. Oh, what? Did you hit me with the pillow?
yeah, and he's taking a 2x4 and just fucking wham, and that kind of releases all of the vibes.
My face hurts.
And when
not quite
later,
here,
Not
not
here,
quite here,
Not quite here, but right here. And there's more to that scene too later, because when she walks up, she goes, because it's in all the trailers too, and I was pissed when it wasn't in the movie, but it's in the extended scenes. She goes, Jesus, what's wrong with your face? I knew it. And he's like, there's a big mark right here, isn't it?
I have that. I could have the extended cut. I don't know, because I had that scene where he says, "Oh, I knew it."
Oh yeah,
'Cause
but
it's
there's more
done
to
the
it. He
very
keeps
end.
going. Yeah,
Oh,
there's more
okay.
to it. He's like, yeah, it's right here, isn't it? And she's like, yeah. And he's like, I knew you hit me hard. And he's like, yeah, it keeps going. That whole scene's got it. It's on the DVD. It's the extended.
What's interesting too is
Scene.
David Spade accidentally didn't choke up enough on the part when he actually hit Farley in the take, because it was supposed to be a rubber part that actually hit here, because again,
Okay.
Farley did all of his stunts. No, he hit him in the face with a 2x4.
Oh shit! I thought it was one of those wrestling things that kind of it hits kind of hard, but
I thought it was like a
supposed to
balsa
break.
wood or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah,
But-
but the part of it that was supposed to contact with his face was coated in a fine bit of like foam and rubber, so it was supposed to just like pat, like the same thing with Shaun of the Dead that we mentioned last week.
Yeah.
The only reason why you only see Simon Pegg in the scene with
'Cause
the
it's
cricket
the only
bat
one that-
is because it's the only one that actually has foam coating on it. So he's actually hitting the extras. He's actually hitting the extras.
Yeah, and this one you said he just clocked him.
Yeah, he just didn't choke up enough. So the part where that was supposed to hit his face went on the opposite side of his head.
Shit. Well, you know. So we're talking about. Oh yeah. Then after the diner scene, of course, there's the guarantee scene, and it was like, this is so, to me, this is middle America. This dude, it's like it has to say guarantee on the box because my customers expect guarantee on the box. It's like, this is the most American or Midwestern thing I can think of when it comes to this. It's like, why? It's like everybody knows that guarantee is shit.
I can take a box and slap a guarantee on it.
Yeah. So I guarantee it's a piece of shit.
It's like, but it's done so well. I even laughed at the guy. He's not even telling any jokes.
His voice is just, there's something about it. I don't, every time I watch this, I say, hey, I'm going to go figure out what else that guy's been in. Has he been in anything else?
Oh yeah. He's been in a few.
He's a
character roles.
Yeah.
And stuff. Right. Okay. And then of course, Paul, it tries to take care of Callahan's. He's trying to burn it or do something to it.
He's trying to sabotage the trucks, and then the scene with my favorite breed of dogs, Rottweilers. I grew up with Rottweilers, so I'm just like, oh, that's a Rottie.
Yeah. Yeah. So he got this. Like, why is he trying to punch holes into the trucks with a fucking sniper rifle? That's I didn't get. I mean, just go out and just stab him with a knife. It's faster. He didn't know the dog was there anyway, right? But I
would have to assume
funnier.
So, yeah.
It's funnier because he like falters. The gun kind of goes off and the sign breaks the wire or the chain, I should say. And then you get this where he just goes into the car and just goes crazy. And yeah, it's funny how Rottweilers are pretty tame if you're the owner, but pretty rough if you're not.
It's really completely contingent on how you raise them. It's just like it's like most like any other dog.
Yeah. Well,
but especially like this
deleted
point in time,
scenes, he actually goes up against the dog like twice that we don't see in the movie because he's outside of Julie Warner's office in one bit, like looking in. This is how he obviously figured out how to work the computer because he's like watching her.
Oh yeah.
And all of a sudden, the Rottweiler comes up to him. So this is why he actually didn't have as many bandages on him, but he has like a ton of bandages on.
Oh, later. Yeah. No, that's
yeah. So we're missing like one of the scenes where he got bit by the Rottweiler again because he was outside of her office. Yeah.
What's funny, I think it's just because I grew up with Rottweilers. If there was at one point in time where it was in the late 80s to mid 90s where it went from Dobermans to Rottweilers as like if there's a guard dog in something, it's going to be one of them. Now it's all pit bulls. But
yeah,
but one little time there.
But it started as German Shepherds. Then moved to Dobermans, then Rottweilers.
Yeah.
Then. And before we do our second segment of the night, I like to talk about this scene where you almost never see these kind of scenes during the 90s, but they totally went for it. Now, not the girl. The girl is normal, like in 80s, 90s, early 2000s. Oh, the hot girl. And the dude is looking out, the geeky dude. However, Tommy comes back.
The getting caught. It's like, what is your favorite team? The Wankies?
The Wankies.
And what's funny too is Chris Farley ended up dating that woman for a while. And David Spade was furious about it because David Spade had a big thing for her.
Huh. He got all the models. Fuck him. Dude needs to get over it. He was constantly dating bitches that are a foot taller than him his entire career. So
that's true.
Were there any like deleted scenes, or was there any version? Okay, so that was there was
no version of her actually being naked on the thing. Even
she was naked, but we don't get to see it. Yeah,
yeah. And it was actually Chris would actually most of the people didn't know that they were actually a couple. but he was be the one on set talking her up, like, it's okay, it's not a big deal, and he'd be the one to run to her with a towel after they were done.
The thing is, there's a moment where you can see David Spade's over the shoulder looking down after she technically took off her top. You can definitely tell. I don't know who actually paused it in the right moment, but she's wearing a skin.
The skin colored
bra with the white bikini top. So you can't see anything. The only time she's actually naked without anything is literally when they're filming her from the back.
Yeah, and I'm sure they were trying to be careful because I'm sure they were heading for a PG-13. In fact,
they were really
careful. The only deleted bits from there is on the DVD that they have anyway is where there's more of David Spade and him.
Yeah, it's all
all his side.
I can see that. I could see.
Yeah, because he's like, oh yeah, daddy like, and he's just more of the same shit, and you can tell he's really what he's going to town, you know.
Yeah,
and I think they even titled the deleted scene "Taken Out for the MPAA" or something like that.
Yeah, I can see that. Well, there was a that's coming up though. We'll discuss that after the next segment. But I do love at the end of the night. Hey Richard, who was your favorite little rascal? Was it Alfalfa or was it Spanky?
Spanky. All right. Let's do a second segment of the night. You know it. You love it. It's called Screen Fighter.
Round 1. Fight.
Screen Fighter for the uninitiated is where we take two movies, pit them together, and see which one is the best one. If there's no discernible difference between the two, both of them are good, both of them are bad, we fall into our criteria, which is Saturday evening, Friday evening, out with the boys, out with the girls, out with your significant other. Two movies in a vacuum. Which one will you pop in? And bablam, this is what I came after about 300 of these that I tried to do. Every single time with The Little Mermaid came up, I didn't want to put it up. I'm joking, of course. Avengers or Field of Dreams? Jason.
All right. Yeah.
By the way, chat participation is most welcome. Just shout out your movie.
Yeah, I think this would have to come down to what kind of mood I'm in, or you know, who I'm going to be watching it with. This is a tough one. Here's what I'm going to say though. I think that 10 years from now, 20 years from now, Field of Dreams is still going to be a better movie than Endgame. Even though they're both fantastic, I think that Endgame is going to be a great exemplar of a period in cinema, a period in pop culture. It was a fun roller coaster ride. It was a good movie, but I don't think that in 10, 20 years it's going to resonate like Field of Dreams will continue to resonate on into the future. So I'm going to have to say Field of Dreams is a better movie.
Tom?
I'm going to have to go along lines with Jason saying. They're only saying on the other side of it, Field of Dreams has already stood the test of time. Endgame is slowly crumbling with the test of time, and it's only been out for less than 5 years. I liked Endgame, but it's clearly flawed, and it has, you know, once you break it down and really analyze it, it's got its major issues. Field of Dreams, on the other hand, is just Field of Dreams, right? It's a classic. It's one of Kevin Costner's signature roles. It has one of the most well-known lines in cinema history, so I guess I got to give the edge to Field of Dreams.
Feelings?
I'm gonna have to agree on the same lines. And
oh my god,
because I know that Jason, you're a giant fan of comic books, as am I. So it's been a pleasure having you on too. But just in the overall oeuvre of comic book films, I think the whole bit with the Avengers, especially coming up to Endgame, is going to be where the tide broke, where everyone just saw, okay, they've reached the watermark, we're done here. Because everything that happened going on from Phase 4 has been nothing but a disaster after disaster after disaster.
Phase bore and phase dive. Yep.
Yeah,
I think we're all in agreement here, but I'll add something personal. I grew up on Married with Children, And one of my favorite episodes of all time took inspiration from Field of Dreams. And the episode where Al Bundy is calling for a part for his Dodge, and he's on the phone. And there's a certain moment there where he gives up and he goes down to the basement and he hears the Field of Dream thing. And he's like, if you built it, they will come. If you want them to build it for you, press 1. If you know that episode, guys, I know it's a rough.
That's such a deep cut. I'm just like, oh,
Yeah.
all right.
Trust-
No, but it works for me. That's a good enough reason for me.
Anyway, Field of Dreams. Okay, Clue or Napoleon Dynamite.
This is actually an easy one for me.
I have to go with Napoleon Dynamite.
Same
All
here.
right.
Yeah, it's legit. It's legit quirky, funny, and it's understated. And there's all kinds of great. If I walk in the room and Napoleon Dynamite's on, I sit down and I kind of keep watching and I spend some time with it. Clue is a good movie. But I have to go with Napoleon Dynamite. I think Napoleon Dynamite's is gonna be. I think it's a very well crafted, very unique movie, and it's funny. And I think it's gonna. I think it's an evergreen.
Tom, same.
A lot of those reasons. Not only that, when I saw the movie, I'm like, oh my god, that dude's my friend Doug. Like, like we know these people. You're like, oh my god, as weird as the movie is, because it feels so offbeat, you still know all these people. You're just like,
Everybody has that uncle, right? Everybody's got the uncle, or there's
they just
somebody-
can't get past the 80s, right? His glory days, and you're that shithead brother or cousin, like what's his face, and everybody had a buddy like Pedro, and
Even in my high school, I had a few people that are side characters in this movie.
Right?
Which is weird.
isn't it?
Yeah.
From a
Because it feels like
totally culture. It's so weird.
Well, it feels like such an alien film too, right? You're like, no way, this is like reality, and it feels like this offbeat Nickelodeon kind of world in a weird way, or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like if Wes Anderson made a movie as a teenager,
yeah, good.
Yeah. Oh wow, that's really apt. Yeah.
and everything just kind of you're watching it and you're just like, what the hell am I watching here? But like you just get sucked into this little story about this dork and his friends, and there's no real plot to the movie overall. It's just a day in the life of
That high school.
It's sad that the show, because they did an animated series that was very short-lived afterwards, it just never quite captured what the movie was, and it even had all the original voice actors back to play the voice. It's just, I don't know what they did wrong there, but I'm like, because watching the movie, you're like, this would work perfectly as like a TV show, like an offbeat comedy TV show, but it never translated well for some reason. But it's one of those time capsules that, despite Clue being as...
Clue, watched it recently too for a project I was doing. It's fucking awful. It is.
It's one of those movies that for some reason...
I'm saying it's chock full of great actors.
Yeah.
That were put in this hodgepodge of a movie, and it's really bad. It's supposed to be a fun, like... a weekend, a murder mystery kind of thing, and it just falls flat. It has comedic bits in it, which are, but it just falls flat, and the overall story is just,
I mean, it has its fans, but like I agree with you, it does not really hold up as much as some of those fans like to think it does. They think it does, I guess, is the best way to put it.
Well, I would say also Clues is a terrible board game, so awful premise from the get-go.
No, I love Clues. Fuck off.
I love Clue as a game and that concept.
I was just going to just also go with Napoleon Dynamite on the fact that, like, I love the fact that in itself, it was just bucking against the trend of what comedies were at the time. And that was coming up where, Ben Stiller was getting his career renaissance, and Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn films where they were like kind of like raunchy, buddy kind of comedy films.
Yeah.
Dodgeball was really big at the time too. So when that movie came out, everyone was just like, what is this? I have to go see it now.
Plus, Napoleon Dynamite actually inspired a full-on dance in World of Warcraft. And for me and Oh My Feelings, which this is our bread and butter, it's like, oh, Oh, okay. Right. So Beowulf
Yeah.
again. Not again because last week we had
Last week we had
Beowulf
Beowulf
too.
on here.
And
How is this even
I'll
a
ask
context here?
Tom and Rat Race from 2001. Jason,
Yeah.
Tom.
I had an answer. Go ahead, Jason, first, though.
So I've seen Beowulf, and it kind of left me cold. It was kind of neat at the time in terms of the CGI and so forth, but I have no desire to ever watch it again. And then I never saw Rat Race, so I'm kind of out, I'm kind of disqualified on this one. I
Okay.
can't
Tom?
really.
Rat Race, hands down.
Really?
Rat Race,
Okay.
hands down, because Beowulf has fallen off of the radar. Like, people even forget that was the first of the weird Robert Zemeckis, let's try this CG. People forgot all about it being one of those movies. It was before
Polar
the
Express.
Christmas one, Polar
Yeah.
Express.
Yeah,
Rat
the
Race,
very
on the other
uncanny
hand,
valley CGI where it's just like
Yes.
this is just unnerving.
Mhm.
Yeah.
and just like Jason said, I saw it once. It was fine for what it was. I don't ever plan on watching it again. Rat
Feelings?
Race, on the other hand, is one of those movies that has. I don't think it did very well. I think it actually flopped
Yeah,
up
it flopped.
when it came
It
out.
flopped.
Oh, yeah.
But because this came out when I had my video store, I noticed that when it came out, it was one of those movies that people watched and then they told their friend about it and they told their friend about it and they told their friend about it. And it's now gotten this cult following, not as big as some cult followings, but it does have a cult following. In fact, Andre loves that movie.
Oh no.
Oh wow.
And the
Wow.
reason is Rat Race was kind of like the Cannonball Run, or it's a
It
mad,
is
mad, mad, mad
Cannonball
world
Run
of its
the
time.
2000s
Yes,
without
Okay.
actually calling it the Cannonball Run.
Yeah.
exactly.
feelings?
Well, we have those movies every couple generations. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was
gonna-
just gonna. The only reason why I'm gonna really go with Rat Race because I'm not a huge fan of the film, but I did see it at a drive-in theater with my girlfriend at the time, so I've got other happy memories. So I'm gonna go with
Aha.
Rat Race.
A clue.
All right, I'm gonna put Rat Race on my list. I'll check it out. So thanks for the
You
recommendation.
might enjoy it. You might enjoy
Yeah.
it.
I'm gonna stick with Beowulf because I detest Rat Race. I really do. I hate Rat Race. Even though like they brought in Mr. Bean to kind of like save it, it's fucking awful.
I think also
Last
didn't-
week
like
we
half of
had
the-
Beowulf. By the way, Tom, Beowulf and versus Superman 3. Just a quick
Superman 3, hands
Superman
down, man.
Yeah.
3, right?
Yeah, we
Because
Superman
I
3.
mentioned it. I
Conversation
mentioned
about
last
that.
week that you did the whole B movie, A movie
Oh
thing
yeah.
with Script Doctor and Nick, and I was like, oh, that such a refreshing take on that movie. Right.
What's
cool.
also really
So,
interesting too about Rat Races is that like a quarter of the cast was like, didn't I just see you in Road Trip?
kind of, yeah. Right. Wizard of Oz, original Wizard of Oz, and Patriot Games.
Oh, this is an
It's
easy
gonna be the
one.
last pairing.
Wizard of Oz. I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah,
Wizard of Oz for me too.
Wizard of
Yeah,
Oz.
that's
We'll do another one.
yeah, I was gonna
Maybe
say I
not
was
so
too.
obvious.
Ooh, I mean, I've never
sorry,
seen the
that's
double.
obvious.
Yeah.
Sorry. All right, last one.
I've never seen 500 Days of Summer either. So
It's gonna be Wild Things just for the tits. Dogma or the Iron Giant.
that's a
Two
deep
of
damn
them
you,
from
Kevin
1999.
Smith.
The Iron Giant.
I seen Dogma this week again. I also saw another podcast with Kevin Smith that he did recently. He came back to do one of my favorite ones that he used to do good, but now it's just seems so hollow. Is Hollywood Babylon?
Really?
Mhm.
He brought back Babylon.
I'm gonna pick Dogma. It's good. It's the best he's ever done, and that including Clerks and Chasing
Yeah.
Amy and everything
Mallrats.
is just so good. It's
I agree
really
with
really
Mephisto
good.
on this one. Yeah, as much as I hate him now.
I love the Iron Giant. It's just it hits different strings
good,
in the guitar for me. You know what I'm saying? I would much rather have Dogma watching it, especially watching it with other people. It really is hollow right now, especially because
Jason, what do you think?
So I'm gonna go with well there's some good moments in Dogma. I can't. It's hard for me to watch Kevin Smith stuff now. My memories of the Kevin Smith movies are better than the Kevin Smith movies. due to I think time plus his personality. And then when I look at the Iron Giant, it's a timeless tale. And so I'm gonna have to go with the Iron Giant. But I do recognize there's some good one-liners and a great cast in Dogma.
Feelings?
Yep. I think it's completely contingent on, again, the audience that I'm with. Overall, I would, again, Dogma is like, as you mentioned with Napoleon Dynamite, Jason, like if it's just on, I'll sit down and I'll watch Dogma. I wouldn't want to sit down and watch the Iron Giant, but if I'm it's just watching my niece and nephew or something like that, that would be a situation where, well, again, I wouldn't want to show them Dogma because they're a little too young for it. But also, I could sit down and I could enjoy the Iron Giant with them, and I wouldn't be like, oh my god, I have to watch this goddamn kids movie, you know.
All right, cool. I'm gonna mark it down as Dogma just because the chat says Dogma as well. So yeah. Cool. I had a person, probably a guy, telling me, do you know The Professional in Leon?
Mm-hmm.
I had a poll up for Gary Oldman, and one of the things that I put on the Gary Oldman thing was Leon, but I didn't call it Leon because I know it's YouTube and it's probably going to go to a mostly US based audience. And I wrote down The Professional, and the guy's like, you say The Professional, but my copy says Leon the Professional. And I said to him, it's like, great, you have the European version of Leon.
Well, just so you know, like up until I think this last release was the first time we've had the theatrical cut in years here, because we've had the European cut now for a while. So we've been knowing it as Leon the Professional is what they've been calling it over here for the last like 10 years.
And even before that, it was released in the US as The Professional, not Leon the Professional.
Yeah.
And everywhere else in the world, it's just Leon.
Yeah. So we're aware of it more so now is what I'm saying, because of the it's been ever since then. It's only been released as The Professional once on DVD, and I actually have that release because I kept it because that's the only way you could have the theatrical version until recently, I think.
I was happily enough watched it in the theaters where I did not want to go and watch this thing, but I had a great friend who took me to all the like weird movies of the 90s. So if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't even watch Pulp Fiction ever. Because he took me to a special screening. I knew because I was like 13 when it came out, 14 when it came out, and it didn't really interest me. But he's the one's like, dude, this movie you have to watch. And he took me to all these crazy movies. Like one of them is Leon, Pulp Fiction, and a lot of these type of movies where it's like, oh shit, I love this.
That cut did really change the movie though. Like it's to a point where like the Leon version is basically the creepy cut.
Yeah. What's interesting too is like, have you ever tried to watch it on cable, especially when after the film had come out and it had its run where it was edited? Oh my God, Gary Oldman's the overdubbing that they did on his rants is one of the funniest things. Just, I'm sure you can Google
I don't know if
it.
I've ever seen it.
I'm sure you should. It's probably not that they have a clip on it on YouTube, but just what they tried to get away with in his just profanity, just littered tirade.
But it's funny because you watch The Professional and it's like you're watching a canon movie, like the ultimate canon movie. It's so bitchy.
Yeah.
And then you watch Leon and you're like, I'm watching some like French independent film with some really bitchin' action scenes in it. I don't know what's going on here. It's good, both versions. It just depends on your mood, I guess.
Right. So I want to get to so there's a point in the movie where after the whole wanking scene, it kind of changes their fortune, but you can see like shots of them with like trying to like selling stuff and actually beginning. There's a shot of Chris kind of bumping and trying to get out of the office after a successful sale, and he's just like slams into the fucking window. Son of a. And by the way, the line that keeps not only holy shnikes, but that's gonna leave a mark. He literally stole that from John Candy.
Which is funny because it's a line that he used in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and this is like the closest you're gonna get to a spiritual sequel to Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Kind of, yeah, kind of.
And it hits all the same notes, right? It has both the humor and the heart that Planes, Trains, and
exactly.
Automobiles have.
And they pick up
dog.
the girl, right, with the dog. And
Stage
the
hiker,
dog
yeah.
is literally there spilling them. And there's a moment there. I couldn't find it right here, but there's a moment there where Richard is kind of getting back at Tommy because Tommy goes out and take a piss, and Richard just moves the car just a
driving
little
the
bit.
car. Yeah.
And
Another
it's
thing
like,
guys do to their
Richard,
friends all the
move,
time.
Don't go. It's like, oh,
Who
I
hasn't
pissed
done
on
that to one
myself.
of their friends? Seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Especially when
it's-
they're drunk. It's like, pull over, I gotta piss. And then,
it just
you fuckers, quit moving the car.
and it just shows you how really friendly they become. So it's up to the point in their friendship where it's like complete banter between the two, and they both kind of silently agree that they're willing to take it. So all the inside jokes, all the you did the wanking, and you did this, and it keeps going back and forth, and that's how their friendship kind of sticks
It's
together.
well paced that it's not like it happens in one shot, right? Like
No.
David Spade's character normally in these kind of movies, he would have just a quick change of character and then they'd be best friends for the rest of the movie, right? No,
Yeah.
it's a slow and subtle thing, and there's like 2 or 3 moments that you pick out, and it's really great moments too, because it's like Chris will leave the room, and David's just sitting there, and he'll have a smirk on his face because it's like it's like he's getting to him. He's getting to him. Fat guy in little coat's another example because you can see the crack on his face. I mean, even though it's a natural crack for David, just because he's cracking up. But that moment plays as a character moment because you're like, he's breaking through that thick candy shell of David Spade's character, and this is another great moment here too.
Another great moment.
No, at the very end, just follow me. Just run around. Bees, giant flesh-eating bees.
And this is where it's like Richard is completely surrendering to the craziness that is Tommy, where he's like, I don't know. I'm going to go with it. And he just goes with it. He's like, just run. I'll deal with the cops. And he goes all crazy with the bees. And the cops are like, I'm allergic to bees. Are you allergic to bees? Like, yeah, let's get the fuck out of here.
Roll around in the grass, son.
And when he comes back, it's like, I can't believe that worked. And that's just the look on Richard's face. Like, how the fuck did that work?
I love he's puking and he's like, oh my God, I puked on an anthill.
No.
Cool.
I think they're getting angry.
Yeah.
I don't remember eating that. That's a famous line. Every one of those.
And now they're running to Chicago to do the thing. So
yeah, well, before that, they have the whole setup where again, Paul has now sabotaged the orders, changing the orders when they're supposed to be due. But just as a little touch to show how much Peter Segal really took in just the set and props in there. Notice on Michelle's desk, she has a Cedar Point mug.
I did not.
They're in Sandusky, Ohio.
Okay.
So, it's like this is really cool. They did that. And then they have
they were very detailed in that. And that's where I was saying earlier is that they tricked people enough to where we actually thought that they found areas that look a lot like Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. Right. And Michigan and Iowa and stuff like that, to where it's like a lot of people thought that they actually filmed down here.
Yeah. But then we have again the housekeeping bit. You kind of just glossed over that real quick.
Yeah, I know.
That was something that
it's an hour and a half of movie.
Let me sleep for the love of God.
Well, no, David Spade would do that to Chris Farley at the hotel that they were staying at.
Yeah. I'm sure 99% of the stuff that's in this movie is stuff they've either done to each other or they've seen And
there were so many cuts, when he drops it and he's wearing those really tight like briefs.
Yeah.
The shots that they wanted to keep was with him nude.
There's one of those in the outtakes, isn't there? In the
yes, I saw it today. That's why I'm surprised you even mentioned it, because there's a moment there where he opens the door, like Richard opened the door, and like
you can tell David wasn't ready for that.
He was not ready for it. Yeah. And Chris is standing there with a dress shirt and nothing else.
He's Donald Duck in it.
David Spade is like, oh shit. and
Yeah.
then closes the door.
But
It's like,
one
I
of the
got
reasons
him.
why they actually kept taking that shot out was because they kept saying that his dick kept getting in the shot. They're like, we can't use that.
So
Richard, hold me.
because Paul sabotaged everything, and poor Julie Warner's character is kind of all up in arms. They want to go to Chicago, go to the what's his face,
Zelensky.
Zelensky, and I was like, that name's ring a bell.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
and
spelled
that's another
differently.
great yeah.
It's spelled differently, but definitely. So for me, Zelensky and then Sandusky, they ring differently now than they did 25, 30 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Because, by the way, I had the same thing because I totally forgot it's Sandusky, Ohio. And it's like, Sandusky, why do I know the name? Isn't it like a mass murderer? Right? I don't know. No? What's Sandusky?
There was a coach.
Yeah.
Oh,
it was a coach.
Jerry
it's
Sandusky.
the,
You're thinking
it's
of
the
Jerry
Foxcatcher
Sandusky.
coach,
No,
right? No? Is it the Olympic trainer coach?
No,
'Cause there's two of them.
No, Tom was it high school or was it college football coach?
I
And
think it's college.
basically, and again, I don't want to get you in trouble. People can go research it, but basically,
he did some very, very bad
There,
stuff.
Penn State.
Well,
That's
what-
the Foxcatcher guy.
Yeah. And I think that he himself didn't do anything, but he's at fault because he
Yeah, he
didn't
was
do
culpable.
something when he saw
Yeah,
things
Didn't
happening.
stop him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm saying it's the Foxcatcher guy. It's the
Okay.
You're
character
right.
that Steve Carell played. It's college wrestling, I think. Yeah, it's that. Fuck it. Never mind. It's that. So I love the fact
Anyway.
that they're pretending to be
This is
stewardesses.
another one of those bits that
Like
they didn't
that.
really need, but it just works so brilliantly that you're glad it's
and
there.
to me, this was a full-on SNL skit that you could have completely just wash over and not use, but it works so well. And the best bit, it's the fact that they're gonna land. So Richard goes in, then out, and he's
a Superman
fully
chain.
dressed.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and Tommy's like, "What the fuck just happened?"
And also, I love when they're apparently someone failed geography in a major way because as you know, I'm also from the Midwest, so they're like, so the over under on us hitting a lake or a mountain. I'm like,
and that's
you're
exactly what I was like,
flying to Chicago.
He's just being an ass, though,
what
at the same
mountain?
time.
Yeah, exactly. What mountain are in the Midwest? Not
Well, and
it's
I'm sitting here
that
like,
area.
it's almost like I'm trying to think of how long it would actually just take him to drive as opposed to dealing with all this plane shit at the same time, because I live
Yeah.
like 4 hours from Chicago,
Yeah.
and I
it's
could
not
probably
that
make it.
long
in-
of it.
I think it's because they totaled the car, right? Like they can't,
Well,
Yeah.
again,
you know.
I'm sure that Farley's dad has a fleet of cars,
Yes.
or not a
Yeah.
fleet, but at least a couple.
Yeah, but the car,
Tom's
yeah.
supposed to be fucking rich.
Well, he's probably got a vet in the garage, right? I mean,
No, and
Probably.
Brian Dennehy's character, he's definitely got some kind of sports car.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's the story.
Thanks, Paul. Thank
Did
you.
not want to. Yeah,
I didn't want to. I didn't want to do an investigation right now, Paul.
But
I'm
regardless,
sorry.
you're right. You're right, Mephisto. Like I just said, like you could excise that entire scene from the movie. You don't even need it because all you have is we got to get to Chicago. We got to get on a plane. Then you cut to them in Chicago getting off the plane. That's normally the way these movies are. But they took the opportunity.
They
and it doesn't-
just. Yeah, they.
This is
oh,
just
I
a
thought
great Chris Farley scene, right? Like it's Chris being
Exactly.
Chris in this moment because he's
Chris
fat guy
doing-
in a little bathroom.
Yeah, it's fat guy in a little bathroom. It's fat guy with the little life preserver because he wants to get the real one, but he takes the kitty one just because it's funnier. And
Do you remember the outtake of that too? He's like, he's trying
Yeah,
to stab the pen into it. He's like, what the? He's like, this is the wrong fucking pen.
yeah,
Yeah.
he couldn't pop it because the pen wasn't sharp enough.
Yeah, I kept bending the pen.
It's bending it. Yeah, it's so fucking funny. Yeah, so they go to Zelensky and they're kind of
And then, like,
splitting
I
up.
do love the little bank robbery bit that
Yes,
has
exactly.
the callback
That's
later.
exactly-
Like,
Yes.
excuse me,
Listen
ladies
up,
and gentlemen,
everybody.
The guards just
I've done
laid
this
down and
before.
drilled the guns.
Yeah, their story is, he beat us over the head 10 times with a hammer to get our guns away.
He beat me so mercilessly. I have a wife and kids at home. I had to give him my weapon.
Yeah, he came at me with a hammer. And I swear he said, like, hit me 10 times in the head with a hammer or something like that. But there was one bit I wanted to point out too, speaking of setup and payoff, was the whole thing with Jenny Warner, and when Rob Lowe went in there and messed with the orders. Like,
Oh, yeah, at the airport. Yeah.
Because, like, it's all set up earlier that she doesn't use filing cabinets, right?
Yep,
So, like, that was why
exactly.
they turn around and blame her, is because, she's disorganized or whatever, and that's why it was believable and stuff like that. It's just great how it's all set up, and even Tommy doesn't want to believe that she fucked it up, and he's even trying to be nice and, knowing that she supposedly is the one to blame for this fuck up that now just cost them the entire company. But it's well handled, but then she, redeems herself by calling her cop brother, which is also set up earlier in the movie.
Yeah.
When he asks about
donuts,
him,
yeah.
because they used to party together, and she's like, yeah, he's a cop now. Oh,
Oh,
Wow.
and then it's also playing off the joke because they used to hang out at the donut shop too. I think he said something like that. Yeah.
yep,
Yeah.
exactly. And like there's so many like these setups, and this is like the main setup for the ending shot with Paul, where they just walk through. And why would you have in a high rise in Chicago a full on testing station? I do not know, because they're not. It's like it's not the bottom floor, right? Yeah. It's literally one of the top floors. Like, why would you have this in a top floor? Who cares?
They get the car up there? Multiple.
It might be in a
cars.
basement.
No, they literally were. They were
I
riding in the elevator up to his office.
you're right.
He just
You're
goes
right.
through his entire plant. I was like, this looks like a hangar plant or something, but it's the middle of the fucking downtown Chicago in a high rise building. It's like, what the fuck?
And a shrewd businessman wouldn't have that had the overhead per square foot of a downtown.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's like,
so-
oh wow, what are your OpEx costs on this? Like,
Yeah.
this does not
it's
make
movie
any
logic.
sense.
And
But
Yeah,
I-
it's either.
yeah.
I
Go ahead, Tom.
love. Oh, go ahead. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tom.
No. Go ahead.
I was gonna say it was either just movie, like they didn't think about it, or it was meant to be a joke, right? Like, kind of like like when Wayne's World's like, I just always wanted to open a room where there was a bunch of ninjas training each other, like that kind of a thing.
Exactly what I was thinking. It's exactly what I was thinking. It's that room where you. What?
He is just so ridiculous that he would have this up in this high, like you said, it's just so ridiculous that if you think about it for a minute, you're just like, wait a minute.
And I love the fact that.
The wig
And this says to me, this says
I
everything
think
about
that's
the
what-
character Richard.
And I think that's what Trump looks like when there's a stiff wind.
Well, what's great is that David would actually allow this for this
Yeah.
joke, because he's a very vain kind of guy.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
What's
Exactly.
so great is he would not let any of the professional, makeup and hair people touch his hair except for this scene. And it took him apparently it took 4 hours for him to get the full bald
Head
cap
thing
in
on.
there. Yeah. To not mess up his hair completely. Like David Spade, he's very, very vain.
And yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's why Richard was written that way, to be vain.
But it looks
and
so good
sarcastic.
that you got to imagine how many people really thought he might be bald like that in real
Yeah.
life.
Well, people he was getting questioned about that after this film wraps. Like, is that your real hair?
And that's what I mean. I'm surprised he went along with it. So, I mean, that just shows you how committed he is to the joke compared to his own,
Vanity.
his vanity. Exactly.
Yeah. And then
But we haven't even really mentioned Dan Aykroyd as Zelensky yet either, which
Oh,
is
yeah.
a brilliant character who's
I
teased
love-
throughout the film until we finally get to meet him. And the whole thing is predicated on Chris Farley just thinks he's a nice guy. Oh, he's a nice guy. This is a guy trying to put you out of business, right?
Exactly. Brand doesn't care about your factory.
Exactly.
I've got a soft spot for anytime Dan Aykroyd is playing a
Yes.
salesman or an announcer, like that when he assumes that kind of carnival barker fast
It's
Yeah,
a very
corny.
soccer
SNL
personality.
character, yes.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. And
It's-
whether it's putting a trout in a blender, whatever he's doing,
Yes.
it's
Starting to sell glass and nails to kids. Yeah.
Exactly. So so Dan Aykroyd, obviously, SNL, and then his personality in Ghostbusters. But when it's hitting on all cylinders, it's a character like this, and he just takes it to the next level, and he sells it. You can see I don't know what he's channeling when he does these characters, but it's real, it's legit, and
even when he's losing, basically he's kind of losing the deal. He's still in that same kind of.
It's a very
marketing
kind of character, bringing up Trump, and that's especially what people viewed him as in the '90s. Like, I wouldn't even be surprised if that's part of what Dan was channeling here, mixed with his. His sleazy salesman character from SNL, like Jason was just saying. Because I love his line. He's like, "I make average car parts for the average American." God, I love that. Like this whole little, you just, it's almost you like to love to hate him. He's kind of just that, sleazy, but you kind of like him.
He's
a slime ball, but he's on our side, right?
Yes.
It's that kind of thing, that populist.
And of course, with the setup is the bank and the payoff is the bomb, which happens in about 5 minutes, but it still sort of harkens to the same thing. And Richard's like, "Have you done this before?" It's like, oh shit. Yes, he has done this before.
When they're walking to the elevator the first time too, am I conspiring with a known felon now?
Yeah. And of course,
it's
that's
guy with a tiny head who tried to rob the bank.
And Tommy sets up Zelensky as, the only way I can talk to you is with a bomb. And when they mention the bomb, he's like,
goes,
"Oh no,
these are just road flares.
It's just road flares. I just wanted to talk to you." And then we get the Julie Warner's character coming in with, this says that you and Paul, the mom and Paul, are actually married, and it breaks out everything, and everything kind of settles into, yes, Tommy saved the company. Tommy's matured up, not really, and
no, but you can believe him.
He gets the respect.
Richard can run the company now from here on out.
He gets the respect from Zelensky for the hustle.
Because it's like, well, you got one over on me this time, son.
Yes,
right.
Exactly.
I think
and you're right.
Zelensky's like, this is a move that I would have pulled off. So
exactly, he respects not the man, he respects the hustle, and of course, Paul.
Well, and he did exactly what his dad would have done. Right, he became the perfect salesman. He even pulled one over on the world's best salesman, or whatever you want to call it, Zelensky.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and Paul gets his comeuppance where he literally gets his balls crushed.
Yeah.
Where another subtle setup and payoff, where you see where they did the tour with Zelensky, you see those it's a legit a test that they do, but they had to show you the once because they had to crush Paul's nuts on the other hand.
Yeah, and Zelensky at the end is like, "Hey, send a bottle of champagne on ice."
Yeah,
to his jail cell. Get drunk on me and use the ice to
Here's some ice for your rocks.
Yeah.
And then he hits on Bo Derek right after he just heard she just conned.
This is like, she's a giant con woman, and he's just like,
that's what I said.
I'm kind of hungry. You want to go get something to eat?
Like, I know the con already, right? He's like, let's get past all that shit, baby, and get some lunch. Yeah.
And the last scene, they sort of
this is the
tearjerker,
here, yeah.
and it's like, and they had to put in that last bit of over the top Chris Farley comedy where the boom comes in and smacks him over the head. It's like, "Oh, you son of a!"
It's one of the few times one of those jokes on the end of a very touching scene kind of works and is earned. Right, because it's still part of the scene. It's the wind blowing in. It's almost like his dad kind of going, "Yeah, you did good, kid, but still give him a smack upside the head at the same time."
Exactly.
And it kind of fits with what they set up with Brian Dennehy's, this whole character where he loves Tommy, he supports Tommy, but he will mess him up if it needs to, upside the head.
Exactly my point. Sometimes he needs a crack upside the head. Exactly, yeah.
And that is it. That's basically our movie.
It's a beautiful film. Beautiful film.
I'm
glad that I got to talk about it with Jason, not just you guys.
Well,
Yep,
that's
definitely.
how
Well,
things
as,
work.
as we're gonna go with the wrap up, Jason, why don't you go ahead and lead off?
Yeah,
Your
yeah.
thoughts.
Go ahead,
Wrap it up.
Jason, because
So-
we're just about to dumb things down.
So in some regards, Tommy Boy is a retelling of the Hamlet story, but not everybody dies at the end, right? So it's a comedy.
I never
but-
thought of it that way, Jason.
So I mean,
It
you know,
is though.
it's-
He's not wrong if you
Yeah,
think
yeah,
about it.
I'm shocked that I didn't know. I didn't pick those up.
I'm cultured. I may do comic
Man
books.
culture.
I'm a cultured man, right? So Tommy Boy is up there in one of those top tier movies for me. That's like a Caddyshack, where there's not a wasted line in the whole movie, right? And there's not a dull moment, and it's just it's a wonderful comedy. Again, there's a bit of it's sort of like a coming of age movie, but the guy's in his mid-20s, right? So it's a late coming of age movie, and it's a man who is he's on a redemptive arc, and in his heart he's a good guy, but he's just got to kind of grow up and find his footing in life and so forth. And the jokes all land, and whether it's physical comedy or the back and forth and the banter. And then in terms of the casting is pitch perfect because you know David Spade, you can tell how he's the uptight kind of person that can get easily irritated, but the person who's irritating him is a lovable oaf and all that stuff. So there's a great odd couple relationship there. The casting between Bo Derek and Brian Dennehy and Rob Lowe, it's all perfect. The supporting characters, you know, whether it be the bankers or the mechanics and the guys at the factory, it's everybody in this movie just shines, even in the smaller parts. So Tommy Boy is a top tier movie. And then on a personal note, I'm on like the last week of a 60-day campaign for my book, and when you reached out to me, and you said, "Hey, I'm doing Tommy Boy," I was like, "That's perfect. That is perfect," because I'm gonna be like getting in the home stretch, and in my frame of mind, I'm gonna want to sit back, drink a beer, and laugh. And so, Mephisto, thank you so much for letting me sit in on this one, because it's perfect for where I'm at in terms of my headspace. In terms of my headspace, and Tom, wonderful to finally get to hang out with you. Well, I guess we've hung out before, but this was good to just get some one-on-one time to make you laugh and talk to you. And same thing with you, Felix. It was nice to meet you. And
Well, I didn't know we were both Midwest boys until today. So there you go.
Yep.
There you go. There you go.
All three of you.
Yeah, all three of us actually.
All three
I
of
didn't
you.
even think about all my feelings either. Yeah.
I knew Jason. I knew that you were from Minnesota because we were on the Midweek Comp, and he kind of mentioned that, and it was stuck in the back of my mind. I was like, did I pull off a great casting for this podcast?
There you go.
Very much
There you
so,
go.
because you have Chris Farley has a big, huge connection to my life. Like he is like I should have dug it out for this. I have a yearbook where I actually am doing Matt Foley at a thing for high school, and then they have another picture of me where it says Chris Farley and his buddy. It was me and my buddy. I didn't like it at the time because, you know, insinuation, but in hindsight, I'm glad they did it now because, you know, then I was like, oh, just doing a fucking fat joke on me, bastards. You know, but I did. I was like Tommy Boy before even Tommy Boy existed, because it was just kind of like I was that guy who would bust in the room, go, "Hey guys, how you doing?" And I trip over a fucking desk, and I do it all on purpose, right? And I could do that shit then because I was limber and I had the padding, and I know what Tommy, you know, Chris Farley did for that role, and I could see it, and I saw myself in that role. And the same thing with David Spade. Like, he was like my buddies half the time. They were the guys who was always telling me I'm looking like a jerk. Quit acting that way, or you're looking like a dipshit, or no, that was funny. You know, like they're the other guys egging me on. But like, yeah, no, I am that guy. I lived this life. I mean, my dad didn't own a thing like that. I didn't have that. But like, I know those guys. I am those guys. Exactly. Like, I mean, it's kind of funny in that respect. But yeah.
The Legion of Memers couldn't help me, but I did it myself this week. And it was fun, though, because it came to me in the middle of the week. And I didn't know what you were going to think about this, Tom, but I knew Jason would love it. Yeah.
I've seen it so many times in the theaters. And like Jason said, it's just a perfect comedy that wastes none of its real estate. You know, and if you watch the making of it, Oh, yeah, this is a good question, but I
Yeah,
just want to say
was
this real
David
quick.
Spade funny without Farley? This is just beyond Tommy Boy.
He's had a
Was he
few
funny?
things, but
Yeah. Well, I think Paul before that mentioned PCU, which I still think
Yeah.
is a good comedy. I think it still stands up.
I mean, as far as his starring roles, he had one comedy he did. Can't
Joe
remember
Dirt.
the title of
Joe
it.
Dirt.
Besides
Joe
Joe
Dirt.
Dirt.
Yeah.
No, this is actually besides Joe Dirt. It was a romantic comedy where he plays like a guy who works at like a hotel. What the hell is it called? The movie is actually pretty good, but I can't remember the
Yeah, I
damn
can't
name
remember
because the name is so generic.
I probably know it, but I'm
You would probably
terrible
know
with-
it. It has this bit that goes on because he's taking care of the damn dog throughout the movie too.
Yeah,
It's actually
I know-
better than you
I know
think it
which
would
movie you
be.
mean,
Okay.
but
And it
it's-
reminds me a lot of the Michael J. Fox movie that Michael J. Fox did for Love or Money, but I can't think of the title of it.
I would say also, I thought
keep
he
it
was also
later.
really good in Just Shoot Me, but I really like that series.
That was a good show for him. And then
Yeah.
like Joe Dirt obviously proves that he can create a character and not have to have Chris there. So yeah, I think that's the
Is
answer
it
to
the
that.
Emperor's New Grove?
New
I'm
Groove.
not sure.
No, that's
No,
an
Groove.
animated
It was
film.
That's the
that's
animated,
the animated one. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's basically where you got John Goodman playing the Chris Farley to his foil in that one.
Mhm.
But no, I was gonna say about Dan Aykroyd being in this movie. It's great because if you watch the behind the scenes footage of this movie, they got a little featurette thing. It's kind of quaint and weird to hear Dan say that because you realize how humble the guy really is. Because he's talking to Chris and he's like, I'm just so thankful I'm in the movie because now I'm getting introduced to a whole new generation. It's like, dude, Dan, you are a fucking Ghostbuster, man.
Yeah.
It's like you are introducing us to this guy.
Yeah.
Like, do you realize that? It's like how humble he was in that respect. And it was funny because the sad part about it is him getting to know Chris in this way between Coneheads and this. Chris was supposed to be in Ghostbusters 3. There was an initial plan for a Ghostbusters that was going to be Chris Farley, Ben Stiller, Janine Garofalo, and I believe either David Spade or Chris Rock were the group.
I think he was supposed to be Chris Rock.
I
I think so.
I
Yeah.
think it was
Yeah.
supposed to be Farley, Spade, Chris Rock, and somebody else, not Janine.
Well, Ben
Garofalo.
Stiller and Janine Garofalo was supposed to be the chick because the Extreme Ghostbusters is kind of the closest we ever got to that.
Yeah,
That was based on that
that's
concept.
fair. Yeah.
So that girl in there is technically because he was supposed to be the fat guy in there, and then the cooler looking guy was supposed to be Ben Stiller's character. But I believe there was
the Bill Murray.
the Bill Murray-ish character. Yes.
All right, cool.
But yeah, that went way to the wayside years ago, and of course, then we lost Chris, and
And everything went to shit, and Ramus and Murray and all that shit.
all that business. Yeah.
All right, cool. Before we exit the show, let's give another round for Jupiter, right?
Yes. Check this out, guys. If you
Check
haven't.
this out, guys. Right.
It's 40
Jason.
40 pages, full color for $10. You can't beat that price. I'm a new creator to crowdfunding and so forth. This is my first comic book, so I wanted to make it an easy barrier to entrance for people. $10.
You can't get a pizza for $10 no more.
Good point.
Yeah.
And the reception, I've been just amazed by the reception. This is the end of the campaign. There's 2 days left on IndieGoGo. I think 13 days on Kickstarter. We're over 200 backers, which to me is fantastic, especially in this economy with the stagflation that people are dealing with on a day-to-day basis. So the people that have looked at the book and have backed it, I'm grateful, and I want to get this in front of as many readers as possible. This is going to be the first of many issues, and it's a good jumping on point. You don't need to know this is a new universe. There's no retconning. There's no history going on here. It's a clean, fresh start. So if you love comic books, particularly Silver and Bronze Age comic books, take a look at Jupiter. Go to the sites and watch the trailer and take a look. And I guarantee you're going to find quality and creativity that you're not going to find anywhere else in comics. And thank you for having me on and letting me connect with people and have some laughs with y'all and get some attention here on Jupiter. So thank you.
Especially laughs, especially.
Yep.
Great. Awesome. Tom, you got something in the works?
Not particularly. I usually just coast around on the weekends. Other than tomorrow night, I have the wrap up, and sometimes I show up on Valiant show. But
Can I ask not a personal question? How much were you involved in the ESG video? Because
Um,
that video was legit. I knew everything that Andre covered, but he put it in a way that it was, even if you didn't know anything about ESG, this is your like tutorial.
that's all him. I helped with the like visual side of things, that part, but the writing side, I mean, of course, I'm aware of what he said in there, and I've said it stuff like that. But as far as the video writing itself, I can't take credit for.
Thanks,
There
Paul.
is some
Appreciate
videos
that.
coming up though that I think I'll play a little bit bigger role in, because I brought some things to
Nice.
his attention.
Nice.
Especially, I guess I can tease it a little bit, basically about how the more things change, the more they stay the same. We've been here already. We've been here, done this. This is exactly like it was like in the end of the 60s going into the 70s. The only difference is then we had movies like Dirty Harry and Death Wish that kind of showed that there was a silent majority that had enough.
Yeah.
Interesting.
We don't have that now, though. We haven't had a Dirty Harry or a Death Wish yet to kind of say, hey, guess what? There's a lot more than just New York and California that are involved in this country that give a shit about other things than
There is
what
a
you
movie
care
out.
about.
There is a movie out there that is
That's
very much Death Wish. Sisu.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has to do what Death Wish and Dirty Harry did. That's the thing. See, those movies were basically blockbusters
Yes,
at a time
I know.
when, and they were called things like, conservative propaganda and things like that. And you actually had an era very similar to ours politically, how it is right now. And just,
Yeah.
we need some more of those. We need some more John Wicky type movies and stuff like that. Top Gun was a kind of a,
Yeah,
Maverick
Top
was
one
Gun
of those
was-
kind of moments, but that was a little kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? That wasn't nearly, we need something that's a little bit over the top. I don't know how to put
you
it,
mean
but like,
more impactful in terms of
yes, impactful both in the
the
box
cult-
office and
like
what it's saying with the
cultural
movie.
zeitgeist and that sort of thing.
Yes, yeah, like Dirty Harry and Death Wish kind of did, because there was a lot of people who loved to hate that movie, but they also had to admit that they were both
like,
very
it's-
well
it's-
made.
I don't care for its material, but I will agree it's a well-made film. Like you can't
Tom?
deny that.
Yes,
Tom, in the spirit of what you just said about like we've been here before, go watch Network again.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Network is great.
Creepy. It's creepy. It's creepy how much of it's been a couple of years since I've seen it, but you could watch that again and be like, how did they know? How did they know? Would be so. I see what you're saying.
I am mad as hell and I can't take it anymore.
Exactly.
All right, guys, go support. At least check Jupiter out on IndieGoGo.
please do.
Yep.
On description down below. It's both. If you don't
That
like
looks like some Jack
IndieGoGo,
Kirby style art
Yeah.
there.
Yep.
Yeah. So
And-
inside
go
of Jupiter, Jupiter takes place in like a normal world like ours, but the character reads a comic book that's by that world's Jack Kirby called Captain Kleinbottle, and I get to draw in a Kirby Bronze Age style, and I get to have all kinds of fun, kind of coloring it so it looks like it's a comic book that could have been.
Oh wow, totally. I can see
Yeah.
it. Hell yeah.
that's great.
So it's just it's maybe 5 or 6 pages. In the comic book, you go down to the next level within the comic book, and I get to totally channel my Kirby. And so yeah, and that character is called Captain Kleinbottle. He's an astronaut who time travels. So again, there's a lot more to Jupiter than you would expect. It's 40 pages, and it's a huge canvas for me to play in. And in the spirit of like, I can't have fun. The reader's not going to have fun unless I'm having fun. In the spirit of that, I even do a pie ad. So I've got a pie ad.
Oh, nice.
nice.
Oh, it's
This
great.
pie ad, yeah.
Nice.
So
All
go,
right.
Super
go,
cool.
go
Oh,
back,
yeah.
Jupiter. Get us to the $8,000 mark. So the stretch goal, so that everybody gets an official Legion of Memers license to meme.
Yep, exactly. Guys, thank you very much for joining
Very
us. Next week, thank you, Tom. Thank you, Jason. Next week, we are going into my birthday month. So what?
I'll be out.
Yeah, I know you'll be
Yeah.
out. However, the show will stay. The show will go on.
I know you're kind of mad about me setting up this month, but I had to do it for your birthday because you're getting
Yes.
there. We're starting
Midlife crisis
month.
Midlife crisis month. And what else shall we start is with This Is 40. Paul Rudd, Leslie Mann and a Judd Apatow movie, which is, I have seen it like only 3 years ago, and it took me by a fucking surprise. So we'll cover it with a guest. And until next week, ladies and gentlemen, I don't say this enough, but like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Mostly share it around so people will have a good time and go back to old podcasts, because we had fun without you, but we will have fun with you too. And until next week, guys, see ya. You're still here? It's over. Go home.